Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening to all of you. And thanks for being here with us today for the fifth edition of the VLR-VSR Days. Today, we are kickstarting with session one, which will include an official opening, and then we will focus on the VLR and VSRs as catalyzers for better local public services. And in the same link today, a bit later, we will be deep diving into session two, which will focus on the VNR, VLR, VSR connection. Also, tomorrow we will finish with an overlook of the post VLR and VSRs with an official closing too. So, welcome all of you. And before starting with the official opening and giving the floor uh, to the speakers, I wanted to share with you some information regarding the translation. So, this session includes AI power interpretation. To access it, please click the link available in the chat or scan the QR code and select the language in which you would like to read the transcript. You can also listen to the interpretation by clicking the speaker icon. I will also say it in Spanish. Esta sesión cuenta con interpretación mediante inteligencia artificial. Para acceder, pulsen el enlace que está disponible en el chat y elijan el idioma que quieren leer la transcripción. También la pueden escuchar haciendo clic en el icono de altavoz. Ces sessions bénéficient d'un service d'interprétation par intelligence artificielle. Pour y accéder, veuillez cliquer sur les liens disponibles dans le chat et choisir la langue dans laquelle vous souhaitez lire la transcription. Vous pouvez également l'écouter en cliquant sur l'icône du haut-parleur. So the link will continue in the chat. So if you have any issue, please do let us know. And without further ado, allow me to introduce you to the opening segment and to the speakers of the opening segment. Today we have with us Pablo Fernandez from UCLG, Assistant Secretary General for Partnerships, Sebastián Bausel, Head of the Local 2030 Coalition, and Astra Bonini, Chief of the Integrated Policy Analysis Branch from UNDESA. Thank you all for being here today with us for this fifth edition. Pablo, over to you to start with the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. It's good to see you all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us to this fifth edition of the voluntary local and voluntary subnational reviews in the eves of the already in the high-level political forum. And colleagues, we all know each other. We are a big family, and it is no other way possible from our side at United Cities and Local Governments, together with UN Habitat and UNDESA, to start these days by paying tribute to Sarah Hofflich, which, as you know, passed away this weekend. She was a long-standing director of learning at UCLG. She was Assistant Secretary General for Service Innovation. She had developed the full learning agenda of this municipal movement, together with UN Habitat, the Global Task Force, UNGP, and the Barcelona Provincial Council. She developed the training of trainers modules of the SDGs on localization. She trained more than 5,000 local government officials through in-person and online sessions from 2018 and present. And if you have been around our community, there is no way possible that you haven't learned from her, hear from her, or know who Sarah Hofflich was. She was a true champion on localization, and she was a true champion for us here at our office, where we have flowers and candles turned on for her memory, and to accompany not only her family, but the municipal movement family that has been sending messages of love, admiration, and tribute to Sarah for the last days. And we really want to thank you for that. So this is a very sincere way of starting with the HLPF. It's paying tribute to her. It's been very, very emotional days for us here at the Secretariat. But we know that it's the same for UN Habitat, for UNDESA, and for all colleagues around, that have been around Sarah's legacy. So we really want to pay this first tribute. We know that many will come, and we really thank you for all the messages of love that we have been receiving. So, Sarah, this is for you, and we will continue with the opening session. There is not more further ado than what we can say in terms of what we are kicking off today, and as well trying to be a bit coherent with Sarah's legacy, the power of learning, of sharing each other, and of putting the persons that develop the translation between what we do at local and regional governments with the international community is one of the added values of the municipal movement. And this is bringing the people who are in charge of localizing to talk with each other, to learn from each other, and to bring this perspective to the highest level of report of the 2030 agenda. And for us, these are the voluntary subnational and local reviews. It is a way of putting in the right place the work of many officials, of many people that are learning by doing, on how to report the actual mandate of local and regional governments. It's nothing but facilitating and accompanying what they are already doing in terms of the language of the 2030 agenda. This is what Sarah taught to us, that we need to facilitate what people do in their daily lives into our own language, and then we can catalyze and we can bring back to the discussions the powers they need, the finance they need, and the relevance they put everyday life public officials into the transformation of our societies. So it is very meaningful that we are kicking off today. Thank you for coming. We are very much looking forward from UCLG for these days, and we will make sure that we bring this back into in person next week to the high level political forum. Thank you very much, Marta. Thank you, colleagues, and I'm looking forward for the discussions.
Thank you, Pablo, and thanks for all of your words. May all of our thoughts be with Sarah and her loved ones, and let's continue the legacy and the work on the learning. So thanks for that. And without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Sebastián Bausel, head of the Local 2030 Coalition. Seb, over to you.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Pablo, and also all my thoughts with Sarah, who was a person I worked with, I admired a lot, and she was an inspiration for all of us with her energy, her knowledge, her professionalism, her commitment to the cause, and indeed she will continue to live through our continued commitment and our continued action for localization. So all my thoughts are with her too, and all my condolences to the municipalist family and to her family in particular. And we gather here for this fifth edition. I would like to start by thanking UNDESA, UCLG, my fellow panelists for the co-organization of this VLR-VSR Days 2026, and also to convey my appreciation to the Regional Economic Commissions, which are the co-chair of the Local 2030 Coalition together with UN Habitat, and are very much present today, but also have been increasingly committed within the organization of this, and we can see the difference in terms of the diversity that we now see increasingly in the participation in these very days, but also in general in the production of VLRs and VSRs. And thanks to all of you also attending these days, local and regional governments in the first place, of course, but also the other local development stakeholders that you are able to catalyze around your leadership from academia, from civil society, from private sector and others, and that also make the wealth of participation into the VLRs, VSRs, and show how systemic localization is when we all come together from a bottom-up approach. So year after year, we have seen this increasing movement around the VLRs, VSRs, and also the local component of VNRs. And we can say that VLRs and VSRs have come to age in these 5 years, in these through all these editions, from an emerging practice 5 years back to a critical contribution of the implementation of the global agendas and also in general of the localization of the sustainable development goals and of sustainable development processes altogether. We now have 70 countries concerned with one VLR or VSR done at least in one of them, and we have 500 VLRs in total done, and we have also amazing numbers for VSRs, which, for example, 1.8 billion people represented in general within the VSR. So it's really a beautiful and wide array of examples for what localization means in terms of transformative power. And this is where also, as Pablo was saying, the reporting part is really an essential element of the full cycle. Local and regional governments, local stakeholders are not mere implementers of the agendas. They are really co-creators. They are leaders from the beginning, from the design phase to the monitoring, to tracking impact. So designing global agendas, scaling up local action for accelerating the SDGs, tracking the impact of this action and also of the finance channels towards local level to accelerate the SDGs. And by tracking this impact, and here the VLRs and VSRs are essential, we also contribute to the narrative that is feeding in the design of global agendas, showing that localization should be the backbone and is becoming indeed the backbone of the implementation, but not only the design also and the monitoring of global agendas. So this is the first message I wanted to share, this evolution from an emerging practice to a really wide range of contributions that makes it central to the sustainable development processes altogether, and also makes localization central within the United Nations reform as a result of it, as a result of the acknowledgement it is producing within the multilateral space of the role of local and regional governments. And now the second part, I would like to discuss more what is the next steps, what is the next frontier. And I think it's clearly institutionalization and connection with other processes. Like, how do we connect VLRs between each other, VSRs? It's the purpose, the very purpose of these days. Of course, learning by doing, but also connecting you so that you can learn from each other, and also connecting it with the VNRs, the voluntary national reviews, and connecting it with national processes as they also feed into national policies for sustainable development. And we need to have a multi-level governance approach of localization, which is essential. It's essential for SDG 11 in particular, of course, but it's also essential across all the SDGs. And we see that the inputs of the VLRs into the voluntary national reviews is also enabling at national level more territorial approach, more understanding and more response to the local realities. And so this is also beneficial for the sustainable development processes in general, and we need to institutionalize it. And finally, we need to make the VLRs a critical moment, not only to show and to report, but also to accelerate and catalyze dialogue amongst multiple stakeholders around the delivery of the agendas, and how do we monitor through the VLRs not only sustainable development goals, but also the very renewed social contract that is at the heart of territorial development. How do we enable this dialogue amongst multiple stakeholders that can lead to correcting or accelerating what is being done and is working well or not so well in terms of sustainable development. And so the VLRs can have in this sense a critical contribution to this multi-stakeholder dialogue, multi-level governance towards going towards a vision for territorial transformation that you are all embodying and that we are all aspiring to. So thank you very much. Looking forward to these 2 days that I think will be very, very interesting, and also continuing with one more stone, building the road towards 2030 and beyond.
Thank you, Seth. Thanks for sharing your reflections and on discussing which are the next steps. Now, we are also here as the 5th edition to really understand how we can enhance and harness the full potential of the VLRs and VSRs. I would like now to pass the floor to Astra Bonini, Chief of the Integrated Policy Analysis Branch from UNDESA. Astra, over to you.
Thank you so much, Marta. Mayors, governors, ladies and gentlemen, with a strong tribute to Sarah's legacy and her tireless work toward localizing the SDGs. I'm really pleased to join you today at the opening of the 5th edition of the VLR-VSR Days. On behalf of UNDESA, I would like to thank our co-organizers for this event, United Cities and Local Governments, Local 2030, and UN Habitat, for what's been a really fruitful and longstanding partnership that's creating space for dialogue and sharing ideas like we will over the next days. Let me just begin with a comment on where we are on the SDG journey, because just yesterday, the Secretary General's 2026 report on progress toward the SDGs was launched. And while it shows that the world remains off track, only 36% of SDG targets are on track or making moderate progress. Nearly half are moving too slowly, and 15% have slipped below their 2015 baseline. At the same time, the report also shows some bright spots where the SDGs have delivered results at scale. For example, expanding access to clean water. Electricity access is much higher than it was when the SDGs were agreed. Access to healthcare, social protection has moved above over half of people in the world having access, and then digital connectivity has increased dramatically, enabling people to access knowledge and information from around the world. So certainly in this context, the growing efforts and innovative approaches of local and regional governments, often in partnership with their national governments, are something that demonstrate that change and transformation to deliver the SDGs is indeed possible, even if we're not seeing that happening as quickly as we would have hoped. The local level is where we really see the commitment, the ambition, and the innovative approaches that are delivering tangible progress and progress that moves us beyond these global averages. In this regard, the increase and scope of the voluntary local and subnational reviews has really been a remarkable phenomenon since 2015. In just a few short years, local governments from around the world have really seized on local reporting as being a critical tool to mobilize action on the SDGs, bringing them into the local community and advancing the implementation of the SDGs in a way that is visible and relates to lived experiences. In terms of the overall approach to the SDGs, the VLRs and VSRs have really brought many benefits in terms of stakeholder engagement, in increasing multi-level governance for sustainable development, and advancing in all dimensions of SDG localization, including data innovation, innovations in planning and policy coherence, in project development and financing. So this is where we can really see the SDGs advancing in real time. For the past few years, UNDESA has been actively supporting local and regional governments to develop their VLRs and their linkages to the VNRs. The VLR, VNR, and VSR process often identifies pathways for key stakeholders to work together, and we know that coherence is so important for advancing the SDGs. So it's an opportunity to really strengthen partnerships among governments at all levels, as well as with key stakeholders, and promote those innovative ideas that improve both human well-being and planetary health, and strike that balance across the pillars of sustainable development. Going forward, we will have to consider how the international community and national governments can scale up support for the VLR and VSR processes and for the important work and transitions that should come after the voluntary reports have been prepared. So this year's edition of the VLR-VSR Days will focus on 3 key dimensions to advance SDG implementation: how VLRs and VSRs serve as catalyzers for better local public services, institutionalizing the VNR, VLR, VSR connection through multi-level governance and partnerships, and accelerating SDG implementation at the local level through post-VLR and VSR action. So linking action to the analytical material in the reports. The premise, of course, behind all of this is that the challenges we face are global, but the solutions really happen and begin and take start at the local level. So the collaboration and knowledge sharing among local governments to share experiences that work are really fundamental to affecting change at scale. We look forward to forums like this that provide an invaluable platform for exchanging innovative ideas and successful strategies. And really, your insights will not only be important to this year's HLPF, but we're really scaling up preparations also for the SDG Summit in 2027. And this is a case where providing empirical evidence on the approaches that work, how barriers are being overcome at the local level will really be informative to the discussions that take place at the SDG Summit on how to accelerate sustainable development by 2030, but also beyond 2030. I would just want to reassure you that UNDESA remains your strong partner with unwavering commitment to advancing localization as a fundamental part of the SDG implementation process. And I would just like to end with a quote from UN Secretary General Guterres, which underscores the pivotal nature of this particular moment for sustainable development, especially with everything that has been gained through the VLRs and VSRs. The direction we choose now will determine whether the progress of the past decade holds or unravels. I thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussions today.
Thank you, Astra, and thanks for your opening remarks, for bringing also the 2027 SDG Summit and the post-2030 agenda at the very forefront, and the role of the VLRs, VSRs in such, and of localization, of course. We are now going to pass the floor for the session one. Thanks again to all the opening remark speakers for their availability and for being here today. And I'll pass the floor to Ana Calvete for session one. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Marta, and thanks, dear colleagues. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first session of the 5th edition of the VLR-VSR Days. I'm Ana Calvete Moreno, I'm the head of research at UCLG. So it is a pleasure to open this discussion on how VLRs, VSRs can contribute to better local public services and accelerate progress towards SDG 6, 7, 9, 11, and beyond. Well, these goals are being reviewed at the HLPF as we speak. Yet, while national governments and partners are shaping these discussions, local and regional governments, like the sphere of government closer to implementation, are still too rarely included in a systematic and meaningful way. Their participation remains occasional rather than structural, despite their central role in delivering these goals. But in any case, these goals, we know that they're deeply interconnected, but they also share something fundamental, which is that they are largely realized through local public services, be it water, sanitation, energy, housing, mobility, infrastructure, waste management, public space, culture. They are not abstract global ambitions. They are the everyday systems through which people access dignity, rights, well-being, and opportunity. And local and regional governments provide, regulate, or coordinate many of these services, often while also addressing the inequalities and the territorial gaps that determine who can actually access them. So through these actions, local and regional governments are not simply implementing individual SDG targets, they're contributing to the achievement of the entire 2030 agenda. So this is why public services, we believe, are not only technical systems, but rather instruments for realizing rights, reducing inequalities, and sustaining daily life. And VLRs and VSRs can, of course, be powerful tools in this transformation. Their value, we know, does not only lie in the final report, the process itself can help local governments collect disaggregated data, identify territorial inequalities, engage communities, and bring together departments that often work separately. For example, a VLR can show that poor quality housing is linked to energy poverty, health risks, climate vulnerability, and a VSR can identify common challenges across municipalities, demonstrate the scale of investment needs, and bring local evidence into national debates. So by making these connections visible, VLRs and VSRs help governments move from reporting to action, no? Informing plans, budgets, investments, partnerships, while strengthening the evidence base for the support local governments need. So local action alone, we know, cannot overcome every structural obstacle. Local and regional governments are frequently expected to deliver essential services without sufficient resources, adequate access to finance, or a meaningful role in national decision making. There has been encouraging progress, we must say. So our analysis of the 2026 VNR cycle to be presented in the upcoming Towards the Localization of the SDGs report shows significantly greater local and regional government involvement in national reporting exercises and an increased use of VLRs and VSRs to assess implementation across territories, as Sebastian was mentioning before. However, their participation in permanent national SDG coordination mechanisms remains much weaker. And this matters because local evidence must inform these national priorities, these financing frameworks, and investment decisions. At the same time, national institutions must provide these mandates, these resources, these enabling conditions that local action requires. So in this session, we will focus on how local and regional governments are using VLRs and VSRs to improve public services, develop integrated solutions, and advance universal access, while also looking at these institutional and financial reforms that are needed to recognize them as full partners. So with this, we will show hopefully that local governments, that local public services are foundations for rights, equality, care, and sustainable development. So I look forward to hearing from our speakers and to the discussion ahead. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Cemal Bas. He's the author of the Türkiye VSR. He will help us frame today's discussion by reflecting on the critical role of local public services in achieving the SDGs under review this year. Drawing on the experience of Türkiye while connecting it to broader global debates on SDG localization, multi-level governance, and the role of local governments, he will kind of set the stage for our conversation on how quality public services can accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda, how VLRs and VSRs can help in this endeavor. So Cemal, pleasure to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna, and I hope you can all hear me well. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, representatives of local and regional governments, and also all the partner institutions for the VCR days. And allow me to also express my condolences for the UCLG family and for the SDG family too, because Sarah Hofflich, as Paolo mentioned in the beginning, if you are working with SDG, if you are working with UCLG, there is no way you have not met with Sarah Hofflich. And apparently, if you're writing VCR, there is no way you can write a VCR without Sarah as well, because if you look at the Turkish VCR, as we start discussing in the first phase of our VCR, how local and regional governments should be included in the SDGs and what was the experience from the MDGs, there's a very big reference to what Sarah was, the interview of Sarah with the United Nations in one of the websites, and we took that and we brought into our VCR and said this is a big gap if you don't involve local authorities into global agenda process, which was the experience from the MDGs. And we start actually our VCR with one of the reference to Sarah. And I hope she's also watching us from somewhere up there, and I'm glad that we as Turkey, we come with our VCR today as well. But we learned a lot from her and we love her. So Sarah, this was for you. And it's a great honor to join you today and contribute to this important discussion on how voluntary local reviews and sub-national reviews can serve as a catalyst for better local public services. I mentioned in one of my speech in Tangier, where we had the UCLG summit, that SDGs is for all of us, but SDG 11 is something that we as the UCLG family co-created with the United Nations with our big campaign back in 2013. We want a standalone goal for the cities. This was very, very important achievement, and now it is on us. We need to feel that big promise of the cities. We need to report on the SDG 11 as all the cities around the world, so we can also show the world when we campaign for a standalone goal, we also give it back on what is needed. And today I also would like to share our experience about the VCR Turkey, which was published by the Institute of Urban Studies. And I would like to thank the Institute because they had involved so much of their capacity for the last 10 months. And very big thank goes to UCLG MEVA, its Secretary General and its team, because they have very strongly supported and showed their ownership on the VCR Turkey, and also Ideal Kent, which is a very important academic journal in Turkey, works on urbanization, and also for the UCLG family, which from the first day kept checking us on the VCR, on the process, and allowed us to share our VCR once in Tangier and now in HLPF and VCR days. Because when we were writing our VCR, we had two important aim. One, we were going to deliver some recommendations to the national government of Turkey. And we finished our report and we presented to the presidency office, to the relevant ministries, and we said, look, there is 51 important agenda that you need to follow and you need to look at it. These are areas where local governments in Turkey are having problems with. And also the second aim was to actually bring that into the global stage. And today we are ticking the second box as well. So we are very happy. While we start preparing our VCR, this was again a 10 months of a process. But when we started the VCR, we also start writing the first initial phase, and we looking around what's been happening with the SDGs in the world, and we've been hearing, just like our colleagues from UNDESA mentioned, that we are behind the schedule, that we are behind the targets, and that we have so much things to do and catch up. And we realized, okay, if we've already passed the first decade, and if we have so much left for the last 5, this VCR should not be one that showcases all the good work, showcases all the support. Yes, Turkish local authorities does as much as the rest of the world been doing. Yes, Turkish local authorities are also taking on the SDGs. But in this VCR, we sat down with many municipalities. We had 600 interviews. We had 100 stakeholder consultation, 22 partner institutions, 25 advisory board members. We work with 81 cities in Turkey and 5 different municipal types. We work with 4 different municipal professional levels. And we said, look, this will not be a showcase one. This will be the one problem oriented. We'll say, why are we behind the schedule for the first decade? What is going wrong? Okay, and then the whole municipalities were very much motivated. They said, this is really what we want. Find those small details. And we worked directly with the municipal professionals. And we said, because sometimes when you take it on the very high level, and the mayors have a big political policies, ideas, but sometimes those big ideas and the motivations cannot see those small problems. That's why we worked on the municipal directly with the experts, right? With the ones on the ground doing the work. We said, what is your problem? Where do you have problem with the central government organizations, with the different institutions? So show us. And then we created 51 problem areas. This one is not presentation of our VCR, but creation of the first discussion route, right? So I'll give you, for the last 1 minute, I'll give you some important outputs on what our VCR did on public service delivery. what we have done is we identified challenges and problem areas. So in Turkey, now all municipalities realize they face pretty much the same challenges on the ground. They are saying, yes, we also have, we all want to do this, do something good for our citizens as the private sector, as the central government, as the municipalities. But when we all try to do the same thing, there's a big problem of coordination. And then my mayors also realized there are some simple on-the-ground issues that they need to fix first, and that those small issues create so much of a budget cost. And if you just fix those small problems, you save so much of a budget, and you can use that budget to whatever the big ambition you have. And we also have realized and discussed with the central government to fix those small problems, because in our VCR, we also proved that if municipalities sit down with a positive agenda with the central government and fix the problems, not big problems, but small and concrete ones, and central government generally approaches on a very constructive way and say, okay, what do you need? You need this. Okay, I'm going to do that next month. So in the public service delivery, instead of doing a big messages, our VCR just goes down to 51 very simple, very concrete problem areas and say, we need to fix this for the next 5 years. And I hope today the discussion will also focuses on the problems that we have, because we are in the last 5 years and we still have so much to fix. Thank you again so much for to Anna, to UCLG family, to everybody, all the partners of SDG Coalition. And I hope these messages from VCR Turkey triggered some problem-oriented speeches in our session today. Thanks again.
Thanks, Jamal. Thank you very much. Indeed, Sara will be definitely present today, but also in our hearts and in our work for years. But thanks for your reflections, and I think they were really valuable. So the reflections on the focus on big issues, but more especially on those small problems that you see day by day on the ground, no? Also the problem-solving nature of your VSR and the importance of vertical and also horizontal collaboration. I think they provide an excellent foundation for our discussions. Do not hesitate to share the link to your VSR in the chat. Everyone having developed a VLR, a VSR, and wants to share it through the chat, please do so. We move on now to the first dialogue of the session on creating sustainable and inclusive communities through integrated and equality-based public services. The discussion will be moderated by Marta Galceran-Bercher, Senior Research Fellow at the Global Cities Program of CIDOB, Barcelona Center for International Affairs, whose work focuses on local governance, international relations, and artificial intelligence. So, Marta, the floor is yours. Thanks for being with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to this dialogue on creating sustainable and inclusive communities through integrated, equality-based public services. Well, of course, I would like first to thank the organizers for the invitation to moderate this interesting dialogue, also to the speakers for taking the time to share their experiences and insights. And finally, of course, a heartfelt tribute to our dear Sara, who left us far too soon and is already deeply missed. So as we approach the final stretch towards 2030, well, we realize local governments are not only implementers of the sustainable development goals, they are innovators, coordinators, and increasingly also storytellers of progress and also of challenges, which is also an important dimension that we hope to discuss today. So what is the menu? Today's dialogue basically invites us to look closely at how integration and equality can move from principle, this idea of like no one should be left behind, to practice. Basically, we need to reflect on how can public services be designed across sectors of housing, mobility, health, social protection, to respond to these intersecting vulnerabilities. How can local governments really ensure that no one is left behind, not as I was mentioning, that slogan, but really as an operational standard, really in included in policy design. In the next minutes, what we will hear from the local governments participating in this dialogue is their experiences on taking the challenge of translating these abstract sustainable development goals into these concrete local actions through the reporting exercise, which are, we already mentioned that, vital to the process. Specifically, we've asked our speakers to respond to three main questions. First, how did the voluntary local reviews and voluntary subnational reviews improve local service provision? Second, as we know, SDG 11 is a multi-sectoral goal in itself. So how is your city using integrated solutions to create sustainable communities? This is the second question. Third question, what challenges still remain in the provision of local public services aligned to the 2030 agenda? It is important to remember that these reviews are more than reporting exercise. Really, they are honest reflections on progress, on gaps, on lessons learned in building these integrated public services that work for everyone, regardless of gender, background, or circumstances. So first, I will give the floor to Mr. Yves Zimmerman. He's the director of Project Agenda 2030 at Strasbourg, because he will need to leave the session soon. So we are slightly altering the program in this regard. So Mr. Zimmerman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you and all the people around the world what we have done here in Strasbourg. Strasbourg is a French city. We have released the first VLR last year in 2024, 2 years ago. And it was the first French VLR, I have to say. So we are trying to impulse a new movement in France, but it's not so easy. What we have learned, I will just say three things. The first one is that our first VLR has been really positive. It has shown that we are at the ground, at local level, advancing faster than at global level. We evaluate to 35% the actions undertaken which are on track to be achieved in 2030. Health, air quality, public transportation, for example. And we only have 15% of the actions that nevertheless remain stagnating or regressing. So this is, for example, poverty or hunger or agriculture or inequalities. And we did also an update the year after in 2025, and that update showed that we progressed even faster, about 5 points more. We moved from 35% to 41% of action which are on track. And this is very interesting, because that demonstrates that the priorities we have set we have monitored, we are working on taking real action on what we measure. And this is very important. The second thing is talking about SDG 11. We have two specific topics. For example, the first one is on cultural heritage. As you know, the target 11.4 contains about cultural heritage. We have removed it from that goal to build a new goal on culture. And this is very important, because the year after we had been labelized by the UNESCO World Book Capital. And this brought us with the citizens in Strasbourg to build up a program from about more than 500 actions during the year, and we evaluate these actions. And this evaluation showed that the actions were cross-cutting actions, have impact on 15 SDGs out of the specific cultural SDGs. This is very interesting, and showing that culture is very a lever for transformation on what we are doing. The second topic is for us is on mobility. We have identified a specific local target on cycling and walking, active mobility. And active mobility, we try to monitor also the investment we have made on cycling, walking infrastructure, and we have a specific challenge to bring the people to choose to cycle to work. For example, we have a cycle to work challenge, and this year the cycle to work challenge showed that a drop of about 10% of the kilometers who were done by the people. And this is very interesting because this drop is really related to the heat wave we faced during the month of June. So we have to take actions on what we have to do to better adapt the situation for cycling, walking during heat waves and in the next coming years of climate change. The third, to answer your third question, I have to say that we are in France having a political change. The first VLR was released by an ecological political team. We have had local election last April, and the actions, the VLR will be the assessment base for the new political team to draw some priorities for the future. So it's also very useful for having this link between one political team and a new one. And I hope they will set their priorities aligned with the gaps we are facing here in Strasbourg. So thank you very much for this possibility to share our work.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Zimmerman. Examples such as the one on interrogating why some goals like active mobility are like failing, and understanding that this is connected with other areas such as resilience to climate, to heat waves in this case. It was a really interesting example. So thank you for sharing that. So now let's move to Mr. Adam Azim, Mayor of Malé. Mayor, the floor will share with us the experience of the city of Malé in reporting, reviewing progress on localizing the SDGs. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, fellow local leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to express my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to join you virtually today from the beautiful city of Malé. I am delighted to contribute to this important discussion at the 2026 High-Level Political Forum. As part of the VLR and VSR is catalyst for better local public services initiative. Today I am connecting with you to share our journey. In Malé City, we believe that true sustainable development must be built from the ground up. Today, I want to discuss how we are creating more sustainable and inclusive communities by utilizing the findings from our first voluntary local review. The timing of this could not be better. With a newly elected council in place, we are currently formulating our 5-year development plan while reorganizing Malé City through comprehensive land use and urban planning. As a result, the findings from our VLR are directly informing this new strategic plan. My presentation today will focus on 3 main areas: how we have improved local service delivery, how we have strengthened solutions for SDG 11, and the challenges we anticipate in the years ahead. To understand our path forward, we first look inwards. For Mal City, our voluntary local review was not just a reporting exercise, it was a catalyst. It helped us transition from a reactive service delivery to proactive, accountable governance. By collecting localized data, we now base our planning on ground realities rather than assumptions. We have aligned our municipal budgets directly with the SDG priorities, strengthened coordination across agencies, and increased community participation. Sorry, excuse me. This is vital for building public trust and satisfaction. Crucially, the VLR established a clear baseline for transparency. We have become increasingly clear is that our key sustainability priorities include waste management, water security, housing, urban mobility, and climate resilience. Delivering meaningful progress in these areas requires a whole of society approach, strong local collaboration, and access to international climate finance. These images capture key moments from our extensive stakeholder consultations. For the Mal City VLR, we intentionally engage a diverse range of partners, including government ministries, state-owned enterprises, SOEs, civil society organizations, and academics. In Mal City, we recognize that SDG 11 is a multi-sectoral goal that cannot be tackled in silos. We are localizing it through an integrated urban development model anchored by the extensive public consultations that shaped our Rethink Mali initiative. Decongesting city is our next critical milestone. Leveraging our current partnership with the UNESCO Transport Division and our ongoing urban mobility survey, we are planning to transform our transportation infrastructure. By advancing pedestrianization, accelerating EV adoption, and establishing vehicle carrying capacities, we are simultaneously improving urban mobility and driving climate resilience. This integrated approach extends to equitable housing, which we are linking directly to our smart city digital rules to streamline the delivery of basic services. We have already completed the technical requirements for our digitalization strategy, expand our information technology capacity, and initiated the digitalization process to build a more inclusive and accessible Mal City. With regard to our coral reefs, we have for the first time integrated SDG budgeting into our financial planning process. We have also allocated funds for reef resilience project and are currently working with an NGO to support the restoration and long-term protection of our coral reefs. Finally, our planned environmental strategies such as implementing sponge parks and green spaces will serve multiple functions. They manage stormwater and build climate resilience while also serving as essential infrastructure for public health and community well-being. Across all sectors, our focus remains clear, delivering sustainable, citizen-centric governance. Despite significant process, we must be realistic about the immense hurdles that remain in aligning Mal City's public services fully with the 2030 agenda. As a densely populated and climate vulnerable island city, we face extreme physical and financial constraints. Dominant among our physical limitations is the severe strains of land scarcity, a defining crisis for Mal City that restricts nearly every aspect of our sustainable development. Despite this progress, Our challenges are complex and interconnected. We continue to battle severe urban congestion, the need for sustainable mobility, and complex waste management hurdles. Our lack of available space directly exacerbates our struggles with housing affordability, overcrowding, and ensuring equitable access to public spaces for vulnerable groups. Furthermore, the existential climate impacts of sea level rise and flooding directly threatens our water security and critical infrastructure. Addressing these intersecting crises requires resources and governance capabilities that we are actively striving to build. Financially, we face all uphill battles. Currently, almost 70% of our financial grant funds are consumed by necessary administrative operations, leaving us with severe restricted capital to invest in tangible public initiatives. Additionally, we face the critical task of building the institutional and technical capacity of the City Council to adequately improve and deliver these essential services. To ensure inclusive service delivery and evidence-based planning, we are also working to close digital inclusion gaps and strengthen our data systems and interagency coordination. Excellencies, although we meet virtually today, our shared commitment to sustainable development transcends borders. This future of the sustainable development goals we determine largely in our cities. Local governments are not merely implementers of the SDGs, we are essential partners in achieving them. However, small island cities like Mali City cannot undertake this journey alone. I respectfully call upon the international community to continue empowering local governments, strengthening multi-level partnerships, and expanding access to the resources needed for localized SDG implementation. Together, we can build cities that are more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. I thank you for your kind attention and wish you a highly successful forum.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, for your contribution. It was very clear. Also, thank you for providing specific, targeting the specific questions that were posed. The experience of Malé is it's really interesting for this exercise. And we move to the last speaker today. We have with us Mr. Masahiro Nishikawa. He's Chief Representative for the Office of the City of Yokohama, representative to the Americas. So, Mr. Nishikawa, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Before I begin, I'd like to express my respect and sincere gratitude to everyone who is currently involved with this important work, as well as to all who have supported it for years, including people like Ms. Sara, who was mentioned at the beginning of this day's sessions. It is in that spirit of continuing this important work that I'm honored to join today's discussion. So my name is Masahiro Nishikawa from the City of Yokohama's office in New York. So today, I'd like to share how we use the SDGs and the VLR to strengthen urban governance and advance SDGs 11. In Yokohama, the VLR itself is not the starting point. Our city administration is guided by the medium-term plan formulated every 4 years. Under this plan, we design policies, implement programs, review progress each year, and make improvements based on the results. The SDGs are embedded throughout this management cycle. So this year, we started a new medium-term plan for 2026 to 2029. It identifies 14 policy areas, including education, health, environment, urban development, local communities, and disaster risk reduction. For each area, we clarify its relationship with the SDGs and link local actions to global goals. We also emphasize the data-based policy management while valuing citizen perceptions in daily life. For us, urban governance means making this cycle more transparent, accountable, and effective. Within this governance cycle, Yokohama published its first VLR in 2021 and its second VLR this year. These VLRs are not merely reports on SDGs indicators. They help us identify policy outcomes and challenges, review our measures, and communicate our experience in Japan and abroad. In this way, the VLR serves as both a monitoring tool and a bridge between local practice and a global discussion. It also helps us learn from other cities and apply those insights to our own initiative. One lesson from the VLR process is that building a sustainable city requires an integrated cross-sector approach. Under the new medium-term plan, we are advancing 3 strategic projects: the transition to the circular city, tourism and economic growth, and urban development for the future. Rather than pursuing these areas separately, we aim to connect them and maximize their synergies. For example, we promote resource circulation through the renovation and the reuse of existing housing stock and the digitalization of the waste-related information management and traceability. We also promote strategic industrial development through regulatory reforms linked with tourism promotion and community revitalization. By using existing urban assets, revitalizing the local economy, promoting resource circulation, and strengthening disaster preparedness and climate resilience, we aim to build sustainable, inclusive, and resilient communities. There are challenges shared by cities around the world. Based on our experience, the value of the VLR lies not only in measuring progress. Its deeper value is in strengthening the full policy cycle from planning and implementation to review and improvement, thereby supporting progress toward SDG 11. Finally, I'd like to introduce 2 international events to be held in Yokohama next year. The first is the 9th Asian Pacific Urban Forum, or APUF9, organized with SCAP. The second is Green Expo 2027, an international horticulture exposition under the theme Scenery of the Future for Happiness. This expo will show how sustainable urban development can contribute to people's well-being and stronger local communities. So we hope these events will promote mutual learning among cities and accelerate local action toward SDGs. We look forward to welcoming you to Yokohama next year. And moreover, we look forward to seeing you, many of you, here in New York next week. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nishikawa, and thank you to all the speakers for having kept the presentation within the time allocated, because we are already running quite behind on the schedules. In any case, Yokohama's experience was an excellent example of how good planification, good localization at the beginning is key for then a good reporting exercise. Having said that, thank you again to the speakers, very valuable experiences that we shared today, and back to you, Anna.
Thanks, Marta. Thanks, dear speakers, for these reflections. Colleagues, we have had panelists from the Middle East, from Europe, from Asia Pacific, more coming from Latin America in a second. I see colleagues listening today from Africa as well, from Eurasia. So we invite you all to take a moment to write in the chat where you are from, to show the global reach and the power of the municipalist movement. Meanwhile, we move on with a second dialogue. It will explore how water and sanitation, how housing, energy, transport services can accelerate progress towards the 2030 agenda. The discussion will be moderated by Fernando Ortiz, assistant professor at the Waseda Institute for Advanced Study in Japan. Fernando has been researching the transformative potential of VLRs for many years and has contributed significantly to this field through both research and practice. So, Fernando, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna, for the kind introduction and also for inviting me. And as well, I also, before starting this dialogue, I would like to express my most sincere condolences for Sarah's loss. It was terrible when I read the news, and I wish the best for her family. Now, because I know we are running behind schedule, so I will try to keep my own words short. So this second dialogue is going to be on water and sanitation, housing, energy, and transportation, which are key elements that cut across several SDGs, climate change, sustainable cities and societies, and they have also connection to other dimensions such as gender equality. These elements like having affordable housing and affordable energy, it's something that fundamental to achieve the 2030 agenda and to really be able to deliver the promise that was made in 2015 now that we are approaching this deadline. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker today, Ms. Eider Inuntziaga Serna from Bilbao in Spain, the Bilbao City Councillor and delegate for the Department of the Basque Language, Citizen Attention and Participation, as well as 2030 Agenda and International Affairs. So, Eider, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me thank you for giving us the opportunity to share Bilbao's experience in today's fifth edition of this important event. And also let me also share the condolences for UCLG's loss. We were also close to Sarah professionally, of course, and we very much feel her loss. Let me share my screen just very quickly. Because I've got a short presentation. I don't know, can you see my screen, everyone? Yeah? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, so in Bilbao City Council, we have taken the matter of localization very seriously, and it has actually become one of our strategic compasses in the work that we do for the whole city. So we understand that the SDGs are not only an international framework, but for our citizens, they become reality, they become meaningful when we are able to translate them into real and practical and tangible issues such as mobility, housing, access to culture, etc. And that is where the local governments become absolutely essential because, as it has been mentioned before, we are the closest level of the administration to our citizens. And so we are the face of democracy, and we are, in this case, the face of the 2030 agenda, or the whole structure of making the world move into a better place. So in this sense, what we did a few years ago was to work in an integrated approach through which we are tackling the SDGs and the localization process in a holistic manner. We are including planning, we are including service provision, we are including participatory processes, and we are also including and linking all that to the values. And all that together comes as a strategy that is called Bilbao Sustainable Bilbao 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, which is in a strategy that has been developed for the long-term vision, working together with all stakeholders. Even the process of developing and designing the strategy was a co-creation process with all stakeholders in the city. And it has got 5 main and key levers. So on the first place, we are developing through different lines of work a strategy to create committed citizens, so active citizens, engaged citizens with the 2030 agenda. We do that through different strategies and specific actions. The second line of work is focused on creating the skills and the capabilities, both in the private and the public sector. So we've got another bunch of activities and actions focused on creating those skills. The third line of work would be to co-create the long-term road for the city of Bilbao together. Once you've got the citizens engaged and committed, and when you've got the skills developed in the public and private sector, you are able to co-create between all of us the coming road for the future. The fourth lever would be to attract funding, investment, both public and private funds, to the territory that has become stable thanks to the previous steps. And the fifth one, and that is where the VLR comes, is creating the whole narrative, the whole message around the whole internationalization of the process that we have been doing with all the local stakeholders in the localizing process. So that is where the VLR becomes an absolutely huge milestone for the city of Bilbao. The VLR allows us to collect evidence, something that hasn't mentioned before, to identify the disparities between the territories, even within the city, to understand the service gaps that we are facing, all, of course, linked to the development and the achievement of the SDGs at the local level. It allows us to engage with stakeholders even during the process and to align our policies and investment wishes or policies together between those different stakeholders. So we are talking about not having isolated projects, so not having just transportation, housing, water, energy projects isolated, but bringing them all together. And the VLR helps us do that in the day-to-day processes, because we've got everyone and every stakeholder in the city on board. In this sense, what we did a few years ago also was to link this whole agenda with the values and created the Bilbao City of Values project that is underlying all the municipal action in the city. And just to be respectful with the time, let me just finish by just providing just three main priorities where the VLRs and the VSRs, of course, become three strategies that could help us have strong VLRs, useful VLRs in any of the topics that we are including today in that provision of essential services. So on the first hand, we would be talking about civic engagement, strengthening participatory governance, and in that sense, for all the public works that we do at the neighborhood and district level, we've got specific processes such as Auzoki de Plana, which is is that one that is showing in the slide, 56 million euros focused specifically on the work that we are doing bottom-up approach, so they can decide where to invest that municipal budget together with the participatory budget that is focused on the whole city. Then we also want on evidence-based decisions, and the VLRs are amazing, are a great tool for that, together with other tools that we have developed, such as the European Observatory for the Defense of Democracy at the local level. And last but not least, and it has been mentioned also before by Ms. Bonini and by Mr. Vosel, it's the multi-level governance system that will allow us to find better financial support for all the projects that we are developing at the city. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to continuing with this discussion.
Thank you very much for the presentation as well, for keeping it on time. Much appreciated. And I think I just would like to really highlight the connection you were saying about linking policy VLR as a tool to inform your policies, as a tool to support evidence-based policy making. That's very important. And then shows that the VLR is not only a report, it's really an instrument to improve your policies, the city of Bilbao policies, and its connection with the regional government and other higher levels. So thank you very much for your intervention. And now let me introduce Mr. Ahmed Abulaban from Ramallah, who is the city director.
Okay.
So, Mr. Ahmed, the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon. Before I begin, I would like to extend my sincere condolences to the USLG family for the loss of Sarah May. She rest in peace, inshallah. And I would like to thank the organizers for offering us the opportunity to share Ramallah's experience and to make the best use of the allocated time. My intervention will focus on delivering specific messages. So I might, for our dear moderator, I might not following your instructions, but I promise to keep the time. And so as you might know, Ramallah, like any Palestinian cities, we are operating under extraordinary circumstances due to the ongoing occupation, which affects every part of our lives. It affects planning, infrastructure, mobility, about water, about everything. We are affected by the occupation of our life. But despite all these challenges, our commitment to UN Agenda 2030 remains stronger than ever. In general, as what our previous friends mentioned, yes, about VLR, we didn't we didn't consider it as a new or another reporting exercise. We adopted like it could be like a governance and city management tool to improve the quality of life for our citizens, to improve our services. So we use VLR to improve how we plan about investment, to coordinate across departments, and to deliver better public service. I will focus about three main issues or three main components. How the VLR supports SDGs localization. From our point of view and regarding our own experience, it mapped all municipal strategies, projects, and services against the SDGs. It transformed the SDGs from global aspirations into practical municipal actions, taking into account our unique and complicated context. And for sure, it strengthened evidence-based planning and more strategic decision-making. It improved alignment between strategic planning, annual action plans, budgeting, infrastructure, local economic development, PPP, and all the aspects that we are working under that as local government. On the other hand, the other thing about public service, the VLR helped us to recognize that every municipal service contributes to multiple SDGs. So as an example, we are talking about water and sanitations. It will help for sure to have better environment protection. At the same time, it improved public health and it also helped us to for stronger climate resilience. If I take another example about culture as an example, we are considering culture as a driver of social cohesion or social inclusion. At the same time, it's about stronger community identity and local economic development and more vibrant public spaces. About the third component, about governance, believe me that VLR on the ground helps us and encourage us to adopt the horizontal integrative approach, which I think we succeeded into that approach. When we didn't look about resilience as a separate component and we're not connected with the smart cities or green city or other issues. So with that, it helps us also to connect service delivery with resilience and inclusion and climate change and sustainable development. And it helps us also to establish a common framework for measuring impacts across all the departments in the municipality. Already I mentioned about the three main components, but for sure there are still some challenges that we are facing. I think that experience highlighted the main challenges that we are facing. First of them about the better integrated municipal data, about the need of stronger performance indicators, about we need greater coordination across our departments and with also external stakeholders. We need also to better alignment between planning, budgeting, implementation, and monitoring. To conclude, the greatest value for the VLR experience is not measuring progress, it is improving how cities are governed, taking into account that the main goal for any city or municipality in the world is to improve the quality of life for our citizens and to make their lives much easier. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. And it is extremely commendable that you are working on the SDGs despite a very complex situation and how you are finding value to improve the condition of your city. So thank you so much for your intervention. And it's a really great example. And now if I will switch to Spanish to introduce the next speaker. So, por favor, déjeme que introduzca a Cynthia Aquino, quien es la manager de la Federación Dominicana de Municipios, quien va a presentarnos ahora su experiencia. Por favor, Cintia.
Hola, buenos días.
Muy buenos días.
Bueno, primero agradecerles por ofrecernos este espacio. y poder representar a los municipios dominicanos en esta quinta edición de los días del VLR-VSR. Hoy vamos a compartir la experiencia nuestra como país en el desarrollo de nuestro primer informe voluntario subnacional sobre la localización de los ODS y vamos a estar mirando estos resultados desde la prestación de los servicios públicos que constituyen la principal vía mediante la cual los gobiernos locales materializan la Agenda 2030. ¿Puedo a ver si logro proyectar?
Sí. Sí, podemos verlo.
Excelente.
Gracias.
Como parte de nuestro ejercicio, que fue una iniciativa muy nueva para nuestro país, donde los ODS han sido siempre algo muy etéreos, que los municipios lograran verse en la agenda y su contribución fue un ejercicio bastante interesante. En todo esto, nuestro primer gran hallazgo fue entender que los municipios ya localizan los objetivos de desarrollo sostenibles, incluso aún antes de nombrarlos de esta manera sus acciones, porque cuando un ayuntamiento organiza la recolección de residuos, mejora un mercado, construye aceras, recupera un parque, que es cumplir su mandato legal que le establece la ley 176-07 del Distrito Nacional y los municipios, ya con esto con cumplir con estos servicios están contribuyendo directamente en la Agenda 2030. Ordenar el territorio, promover cultura, promover deporte, también aporta en la localización de ODS. Y es por esto que nosotros identificamos como un gran hallazgo que impactamos 11 de manera directa en función de nuestras competencias propias como ayuntamientos y luego, hoy se me fue, y luego 13 están trabajándose de manera articulada, es decir, en total nosotros estamos aportando de cierta forma a todos los ODS de manera, digamos que inconsciente. 7 objetivos, un mismo territorio. Cuando nosotros hablamos de la ley 176-07, el informe identifica que impactamos de manera directa con temas de agua y saneamiento, de infraestructura, de ciudades sostenibles, salud, bienestar y aportamos a la reducción de la desigualdad. Los municipios, los municipios afectan de manera directa con su gestión esos 7 objetivos, sin llamarlos localización de manera inconsciente todavía. También este ejercicio de elaboración del VSR nos permitió identificar como un segundo gran hallazgo que localizar los ODS es un ejercicio de gobernanza multinivel, de gobernanza multiactor, donde la experiencia, pudimos ver en la experiencia de los territorios que consultamos, a través de iniciativas que se estuvieron desarrollando en municipios con características rurales, con características de ciudades intermedias, de transición. Y esto nos demostró que vincular la sociedad civil, las sectoriales del gobierno y los ayuntamientos fueron la fuente principal para que se pueda comprender y realizar acciones que puedan en realidad movilizar la agenda en el territorio. Y confirmó el rol que se tiene con un actor enlace que entiende la agenda para poder movilizar todo el tema de ese. Ahí estuvimos trabajando con ministerios, con organizaciones no gubernamentales, con los propios ayuntamientos, sociedad civil. Y esto nos dejó claro que nosotros tenemos como país que trabajar mucho en la articulación multisectorial, multinivel y mejorar los mecanismos de diálogos. ¿Qué también nos reveló el VSR? Ahí nosotros pudimos trabajar durante la construcción del informe en el que participaron alcaldes, técnicos municipales, las 10 oficinas regionales que nosotros como federación tenemos dispersas en el territorio, instituciones nacionales, organismos internacionales, sociedad civil. Nos permitió comprender que los servicios públicos no pueden implementarse de manera aislada. Todos los servicios se interconectan, todos los servicios generan una cadena que dependen de cierta forma uno de una acción u otra. También el VSR nos puso en manifiesto las barreras claras que tenemos para el logro de la agenda. Identificamos 4 barreras que frenan la localización de los ODS en nuestro país. Y el desconocimiento de la agenda a nivel territorial fue uno de los hallazgos relevantes. Solo el 3% de los alcaldes identificó que conoce de, de manera consciente, más allá del discurso, lo que es la Agenda 2030, de poder decir que pueden asumir los objetivos, que identifican sus acciones en función de cómo la municipalidad aporta a los objetivos de desarrollo sostenibles. Otro factor muy relevante fue las brechas financieras. En nuestro país, solamente los ayuntamientos reciben un 1.5 de los ingresos del Estado para poder desarrollar todas las acciones y hacer la prestación de servicios. Y tienen dolorosamente una baja capacidad de recaudación, lo que limita la capacidad financiera para poder impulsar acciones que puedan catalizar el desarrollo de acciones, digamos que neurálgicas en el logro de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenibles de manera local. Otro factor fue la discontinuidad. El cambio político que se genera cada 4 años, administrativo, interrumpe los procesos, interrumpe capacidades. Dolorosamente identificamos que se pierde capacidad instalada en el territorio cada vez que se genera un cambio político. Se capacita personal, se generan condiciones en los gobiernos locales, en los ayuntamientos, pero cuando hay un cambio político, esta capacidad a veces es desplazada. Y otro factor que también incide bastante y es una combinación de ambas brechas, es que esa capacidad, esa fuga de capacidades también la afecta a esa brecha financiera que tenemos. Un nuevo funcionario no tiene capacidad de pagar un buen salario, un salario digno a un técnico especializado en el territorio, por ende, inmediatamente tiene la oportunidad de salir, abandona la gestión municipal. Otra brecha identificada son las brechas territoriales, principalmente en la zona de frontera. Nosotros somos una isla con una característica muy especial y es que somos una de las muy pocas islas que tienen una frontera. Y los proyectos que nosotros tenemos se concentran en zonas fronterizas y otras se quedan atrás. Tenemos grandes inversiones por razones que ustedes ya conocen con la relación dominico-haitiana. Y ahí se abre una brecha bastante importante porque toda la inversión en desarrollo se enfoca mucho en la zona fronteriza, a veces sin recibir eh, un gran avance, porque mucho del impacto depende de de la contraparte del país vecino que no siempre tiene las mejores condiciones para poder responder como quisiera. Como institución, ¿qué entendemos? Proponemos 4 respuestas concretas para poder avanzar en este sentido. Proponemos traducir los ODS, llevarlos al lenguaje municipal, que se vea desde los gobiernos locales que estamos hablando desde la condición de los gobiernos locales, desde sus realidades, desde sus particularidades. La agenda no solamente se puede alcanzar, no solamente se va a alcanzar generando políticas nacionales. Es importante generar políticas focalizadas que ayuden a que los gobiernos locales, en función de sus propias capacidades, potencialidades y realidades, puedan impulsar acciones. Otra acción concreta fue medir el SISMAP, el Sistema de Monitoreo de la Administración Pública, incorporar los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible como una meta en el país, que se visibilice, que pueda medirse como una responsabilidad del Estado, tanto para los municipios como para el gobierno central. El sistema de monitoreo de la administración pública es un sistema que para nosotros representa uno de los mecanismos que visibiliza de manera puntual cómo el Estado trabaja en función de sus metas. Y nos parece que incorporar los ODS al sistema puede ser una forma también de que los propios actores del Estado puedan visibilizar y visualizar a los ODS como una meta prioritaria. También entendemos que impulsar la autonomía municipal y la carrera administrativa para los gobiernos locales puede fortalecer el nivel de las capacidades. Es decir, hay que trabajar en que los ayuntamientos dominicanos puedan fortalecer su capacidad financiera para poder garantizar su autonomía, generar condiciones para que los ayuntamientos puedan acceder a fondos, ejecutar acciones y poder mantener esa capacidad técnica que requiere la municipalidad para poder garantizar la sostenibilidad de las acciones en el territorio, que es uno de los puntos que a veces nos llama a la atención porque llegan proyectos, iniciativas bastante de muy alto impacto, pero inmediatamente la intervención sale, mucho del impacto se va perdiendo porque no hay quien dé sostenibilidad a las acciones implementadas en el territorio. Y otro punto importante es la información territorial. Como parte de este ejercicio, pudimos identificar que la información, los datos deben ser más localizados, enfocarse más en las realidades de cada municipio. Nosotros tenemos como país muchos datos, pero de manera supramunicipal y de manera sectorial no responden precisamente a las necesidades de los municipios en torno a la generación de data, lo que evita que se pueda gestionar y tomar decisiones en base a información y en base a datos actualizados. Esto es una combinación igual de cosas, de factores como la poca capacidad que tiene el ayuntamiento para poder generar su propia data, pero también pone en relevancia esa falta de coordinación multisectorial y multinivel, ya que la información realmente no se comparte. Entonces, ese es otro factor que es bastante importante a tomar en cuenta y que fue parte de los hallazgos que tuvimos.
Disculpe, Cintia, perdóneme mucho, pero ¿podías ir cerrando en 30 segundos? Que vamos un poco con retraso.
Este es el
Perdóname,
último
muy
slide.
interesante. Sí, vale.
Este es el último slide. Que proponemos como siguiente paso el VSR como una herramienta de gestión, mirar el fortalecimiento de las capacidades de los municipios, integrar los ODS en los procesos de planificación municipal y en los presupuestos, consolidar sistemas locales de monitoreo con indicadores claros, profesionar la gestión municipal en este ámbito y fortalecer las alianzas entre todos los niveles y los sectores. Con esto ya cerramos nuestra intervención. Muchas gracias. Y aquí que nos cierro con la presentación de nuestro mayor aprendizaje y es que localizar los ODS empieza fortaleciendo la capacidad para prestar mejores servicios. Sabemos que los ODS dependen principalmente de los servicios que los ayuntamientos naturalmente están llamados a ofrecer. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. La verdad es que me sumo a este mensaje. Yo no lo podría haber dicho mejor. Y muchas gracias por presentarnos la estrategia de la Federación Dominicana de Municipios. And back to English. So thank you so much to all the panelists. I'm sorry we didn't have time to engage in a question and answer session, but I will thank you all of you again for presenting your very interesting and enlightening strategies. And back to Anna. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Fernando. Thanks, dear colleagues, for your wonderful presentations. I'm really happy because I really see, and I've been following, UCLG has been supporting some of these efforts, and it's really beautiful to see that these reporting exercises are truly having an impact in your territory. So congratulations to all of you. So thanks once again to all of our speakers, the moderators, and participants for such a rich discussion. We're running a bit late, so I wouldn't want to pass this on to our colleagues leading the next session. So again, I invite you to share your thoughts, VLRs, VSRs, experiences, questions through the chat as we move on. Chat is working smoothly now. And I will shortly like to offer some closing reflections. So today's conversation has really shown that local and regional governments are shaping the global goals through innovation, through collaboration, through concrete action, that VLRs and VSRs are no longer simply reporting exercises, but they have become instruments for strengthening local governance and accelerating SDG implementation. Three key messages that for me arise from this discussion. First one, local public services are improving lives, and we're encouraged to see this progress in areas such as water and energy access, as Ms. Bonini highlighted at the beginning of the session. Today's discussion also reminded us that VLRs and VSRs are powerful tools for planning and for priority setting at the local level. So when data is available, it is used, and it leads to better decisions and better results. We have also seen how these processes allow local governments to reinterpret sometimes the SDGs through their own realities, broadening the conversation on issues such as culture, mobility, and housing. And as we were hearing from Yokohama and Strasbourg, for example. Second message for me is that strong local public services build trust. They are catalysts for accountability, as we were hearing, that VLRs and VSRs, when they are developed as open and inclusive processes, they help strengthen that trust by connecting governments and communities, their priorities and their values. So we learned that from Bilbao, from the Association of the Dominican Republic, and many, many others. And third, that the moment to act is now. So to focus on problems and find responses, as Chimal was explaining from the Turkey experience, but also that the experiences shared by Malé and Ramallah, they remind us of the resilience of local governments, but also of the urgency of action at the local, at the national, and also at the international levels. No? They also highlight the importance of integrated and cross-sectoral approaches supported vertically through enabling environments, financing schemes, capacities, as Sarah would add here, of course, and strong multi-level governance, and also horizontally through partnerships that are really based on real trust and collaboration, because achieving the SDGs is a shared responsibility. Basically, sustainable development will be measured not by the quality of our reports, but by the quality of our communities, of their everyday lives. And I think the message here is that VLRs and VSRs can help us bridge that gap very clearly. So thank you all very much for joining us today. We look forward to continuing this conversation in the next session, which will be led by UN Habitat colleagues. So UN Habitat, I leave it here. I don't know if you want to do like a 1-minute pause for everyone to take a coffee or tea, or you want to start now. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, dear Anna. Congratulations, everyone, for the wonderful session. It's 3:44 p.m. In Central Summer European time. So we are just 1 minute in advance for the start of session number 2, and for which I really thank you, and I thank all the speakers and the participants for advancing and closing the first session on time. I would suggest, dear colleagues, taking again and being mindful of time to go ahead with the second session. If it's we had planned initially a 15 minutes break, but indeed maybe we can simply go ahead with the session that we have. As this is session number 2 of the VLR-VSR days, and dear colleagues, allow me to take this forward as your moderator, master of ceremony for this second session. Welcome again to all participants, and we have a wonderful set of speakers ahead of us. As we move ahead, what we are trying to look into today is the institutionalization of the multi-level connection between voluntary national, subnational, and local reviews, and how these instruments can be strengthened and how they can strengthen at the same time multi-level governance, coordination, policy coherence, and partnership. So what is the connection between national, subnational, and local reporting and our efforts on governance, planning, and delivery? I would want to take a moment. I know that this has been already acknowledged at the very beginning of these VLR-VSR days, to acknowledge again the fact that you have been part of this movement for a very long time. And today, indeed, we miss dearly the fact that Sara is not here with us. One of the things that, and allow me, dear colleagues, to take a moment, because Sara has been one of probably the reasons why we are all here, the voluntary local, the voluntary subnational reviews, and the passion that she has put here, and probably the fact that she loved this group and this family more than anyone else, I have the feeling. And that's why I love doing this job, not only because we believe in what we do, but because we all care for each other. And I think Sara was one that was caring the most. And caring for the job, caring for the learning, caring for everyone's work and capacities. So, and she has been extremely important, not only for the whole municipal movement, but also for bringing the VLR and VSR processes out of what it was incubating back in 2018-19 to the huge movement that it is here with us today. So I felt and I really wanted to take a moment to thank Sara on behalf of UN Habitat, on my behalf, and I believe also on behalf of all the community that is here connected. And we will keep her spirit going as we keep doing what we do and as we keep doing what she loved as well. So thank you, Sara, and thank you all for remembering her with us these few days and moving forward. Today, dear colleagues, keeping Sara with us, it's quite impressive how with her work and with our work we have moved from what it is a reporting process to something that is completely shaping the localization agenda. It is no longer about the adoption of the global goals, the local context, but it's about the VLRs and VSR changing how sustainable development is planned and financed and delivered across territories. I believe there are some trends right now that with more than 500 voluntary local reviews published, we can definitely extract from the VLRs themselves. Of course, SDG 11 remains the highest being reviewed in the local reviews, in the subnational reviews. As Pablo was saying this morning in its opening remarks, VLRs, it's about governments reporting on their mandate. Government reporting on what they are told, not they're told, what they are meant to deliver, and local governments taking the stage in making sure that their mandate is at the center of the global agendas as well. Nevertheless, as UCLG and the Global Task Force report yearly to the HLPF, these indeed connection with national reporting remains somehow limited. In 2025, only the 46% of VNR countries had a medium to high local and regional governments involvement in preparing their reviews. We are now trying to change the movement, to change this trend, also thanks to the support of the partnership platform on localizing the SDGs, a joint initiative that sees the key collaboration with, of course, the Ministry of Energy and Environment and Energy Security from Italy, the Local 2030 Coalition, UCLG, Global Task Force, UNDESA, OECD, ECA, and others. We come here, and these sessions also stems out of the results of that process after a few months of a peer learning series that has looked more at the national level. Today we look from the bottom up. We look at the VLR-VSRs and how this can be really an engine for transformation. From the VLR, for the VNR and VLR peer learning series organized by the partnership platform, we have looked from the top down, from how national governments can further strengthen the localization of their VNRs. And I personally don't like, even if I just use them, the words top down, bottom up, because what we are actually trying to do is a collective action, is dialogue, is making sure that everyone is sitting at the same table with the same perspectives, sharing a same vision, and using the opportunity of voluntary national and local reviews as a way for defining shared priorities and a collective delivery. Dear colleagues, today I just want to congratulate again all of us, because we get here at the 5th edition of the VLR-VSR Days. It is 5 years plus one, because 1 year we couldn't deliver, that these VLR-VSR Days exist. They do exist not only because we have the chance to meet regularly, but because of your work, because you make this VLR and VSR work happening through your daily activities, by coordinating with your stakeholders, by advancing change at your territorial level, and by, of course, dialoguing with your counterparts, both at the national or at the local level, as depending on where you stand. This moment, dear colleagues, is extremely strategic. Its HLPF has already started. We're going to be soon reviewing the SDG 11, and next week is probably something that I've never seen before, almost at a high-level political forum, with so much on the table at stake for the municipal and local governments movement, for the localization movement, as we review SDG 11 for the last time before the end of the 2030 agenda. As the negotiations for the review of the HLPF and ECOSOC are being discussed with the central role for the local and regional governments forum, and with the midterm high-level review of the new urban agenda that again empowers local and regional governments, being there at the center of the discussion in New York, and bringing more meat to what will be the next development agenda, hopefully. Today, dear colleagues, we had our session. Our second session is divided in 3 moments, with opening reflections from the Ministry of Environment and Energy Security from Italy, as well as from the city of Rome. I will introduce the speaker just in a second. We will be then moving into a conversation with different speakers sharing their reflections, and hopefully we will have more and more time for an open discussion at the end. I will be your moderator. Please allow me and help me in doing my job by keeping your interventions limited to the time that has been provided. There is again AI translated support in different languages. Dear colleagues, allow me to find exactly the languages, but otherwise I can please extract. There you go. You can scan the QR code or click the link within the chat, select your preferred language for text caption, or listen to audio translation as you prefer. So this is a service that is available through the platform. Moving ahead, dear colleagues, to the session, and without further ado, I would like to invite Mara Kossu, lead of the Sustainable Development Unit at the Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, as well as Rosanna Capone, Director of the Strategic Planning and Land Use Management Department at the Metropolitan City of Roma Capitale, from Italy, to provide their joint keynote speech. Please, over to you, Mara.
Thank you, Martino. Thank you, all colleagues, for inviting us here. This is a very important moment also from our point of view and from our side. As Martino was saying, at the HLPF, it's quite tangible, this increasing interest in this movement. As you were saying and mentioning, the first clue of our attitude as an Italian government is the fact that we are having a joint keynote with the Metropolitan City of Rome. We have as our VNR from this year, we are presenting our third voluntary national review. Since the first VNR, we have increased a lot the capacity of integrating the perspectives of local territories and VLRs into our exercise. This year, the report includes 14 voluntary local reviews by 15 administrations among regions and metropolitan cities. So it is very much a huge force that increasingly is being part of the definition of the voluntary national review, and it's also part of the definition and implementation of our national strategy for sustainable development. So this is the attitude we approach the issue and the theme of this session. Anna, in closing session 1, talked about shared responsibility, not about quality of reports, but how we very much engage in changing the quality of lives of people. So this kind of shared responsibility reflects into our capacity of collaborate among different levels of government, as you were mentioning, Martino. No matter if you look from top to bottom or from bottom to top, it's how we manage creating spaces for collective responsibility and collaboration. And how do we acknowledge collaboration as an activity, as a skill that has to be implemented among public administration. So this is very much dealing with the work that we are conducting in Italy with implementation of the strategy at national level and also at regional and metropolitan and local level. And it's also something which is reflecting into our voluntary national review, which we have reflected into the peer learning and the definition and shaping of the spaces for collaboration that have been built into the partnership platform on localizing the SDGs. It's not a case that our VNR this year includes a shared message about how to deal with delivery, boosting collective action for SDG localization, and that SDG localization and the role and the priority of the role of local territories can be enhanced in our processes is part and is a priority all along the voluntary national review. And it's not the case that the voluntary national review, apart from the VLRs are next, also offers an overview of the huge efforts that all territories in Italy are providing in managing to change decision-making and how SDGs and as sustainable development objectives can affect and be integrated into planning. And this is how the Metropolitan City of Rome is the case that we will bring to the discussion. This is something very relevant. We are trying to coordinate it among the different metropolitan cities, enhancing their capacity to collaborate among themselves. And it's also about our capacity to engage with non-state actors and stakeholders, also the different levels that they work on, both at national and at local level, has to be increased and enhanced. We have to bridge their capacity to work with us in a multi-level perspective. And it's not easy. It has a task that we have to engage with. So collaboration is key, and territories are means of trial for us, for national governments, because we have learned a lot from them. We have tested a lot of policy coherence tools with them, and a lot of processes have been put to the ground by their collaboration. Just to close up and to go to the need for going more local. And as an added value, to us, the most relevant added value in this exercise, looking beyond 2030, is about how to increase the linkage among VNR and VLRs. As Martino was saying, it's also a potential that we have still to deliver and to work on, how to increase this kind of linkage and how to engage and to enhance this collaborative attitude that we need to work on both at national, local, and multi-level perspective. The bottlenecks are about facilitation and collaboration seen as extraordinary activities. They have to be seen and acknowledged as an ordinary method of work. And this is very much demanding in our case, for sure. In future, just looking beyond 2030, localization to us, and together with policy coherence for sustainable development and youth perspective to be integrated into our exercise, is something that we will really would like to work on and to share with all of you in the near future, to put sustainable development at the core of changing decision making. And I just pass the floor to Rosanna Capone, thanking her for being here with me. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Mara. Hello, thank you, Mara. Good afternoon from Rome. I'm Rosanna Capone. I'm representing the Metropolitan City of Rome. Our territory is of 121 municipalities and more than 2 million people. I want to share briefly the path where we have taken and why we believe it matters to connect the national and local levels. Years ago, our SDG monitoring existed, but it was separate from our planning tools. This year, we produced our second voluntary local review, very different from the first one. This process asked us a new question, not what indicators do we have, but which of our indicators already guide our decisions. That question pushed us to build a clear chain. It starts with our territorial statistics. It moves through the goals of our single programming document. It reaches the performance indicator of our organizational plan. And it shapes the strategic priorities of our Metropolitan Strategic Plan. The SDG are no longer just something we report. They are now part of the language our planning already uses. This work would not have the same strength without the national level. Our collaboration with the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security gave us something a metropolitan city cannot build alone. Through joint work on mobility and climate funding, through technical support and through national frameworks that we use as our benchmark, our local indicator now speak the same language as the national report. This makes the link between public administration real and not just a slogan. It becomes something people can actually follow and check. Let me give one concrete example for our own review. For each of the 17 goals, we compare our local data with the same 55 indicators used in Italy's National Sustainable Development Strategy. For example, on clean energy, our territory currently produces 8% of its electricity from renewable sources, compared to 41% at the national level. Because we use the same measurement method as the national framework, this gap is not just a local number. It becomes a shared data point that both levels can use to set priorities together. This is in practice what institutionalizing the VNR and the VLR connection means for us. And this brings me to the point I find most relevant for today. Writing this process down as a voluntary local review did not only help others understand what we do, but also it changed how we work internally. It forced us to close gaps we had not seen before. It gave our offices a shared reference point across departments that had never played together this way. And for other cities, it means they do not need to start from zero. Our tools, our methods, and our institutional chain are built to be reused, not simply admired. We also ask young people in our territory to take part, not as a separate exercise, but as a real input for the same planning cycle. We run surveys and field sessions with students, some as young as 16. In one session, we asked who should take care of a local natural site in 10 years. 93% answered future generations or everyone together. No one told them to answer this way. For us, this is a strong evidence that young people are ready to help shape long-term planning if we give them a real channel to do it. So, our reflection for this session is simple. Institutionalizing the link between VNR and VLR is not merely about matching documents on paper. It happens when a national ministry treats local governments as real partners in building shared methods, and when a local government sees reporting not as a formality, but as a chance to change how it plans. Going forward, we want to keep refining this work years after years and to share our tools and methods with other cities that want to walk the same path. We thank the ministry for building this partnership with us, and we hope our experience can be useful to others. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your keynote interventions, Mara, Rosanna, and thank you for reminding again that this is about dialogue, that this is about creating spaces for convening, for sharing, for delivering, and thanks a lot also, Rosanna, for sharing your experience about that. Indeed, it probably VLRs are not about reporting, and reporting what is that we are reporting is not necessarily the most important. It's about what we do with that. It's about the process, about the changes. It's about realizing that there are gaps to be filled. It's about the institutionalization of the processes. So it's about what we do with it. It's not necessarily the report itself. And I think this has been a consistent message that we have all collectively as a family, as a partner institutions brought forward within the VLR-VSR days, and that I believe has become much more tangible as our practices have evolved. The 30 plus VLRs that we had in the world in 2020 are now 500, and experiences prove and are a testament about what VLRs and VSRs can actually change in the daily life of our public administrations and stakeholders. Thanks a lot, Mara. Thank you, Rosanna. Please stay with us if you can throughout the session as we have a wonderful panel of speakers. And without further ado, I will welcome our first speaker, Jordi Castellana, Vice President of the Barcelona Metropolitan Area. Thank you, Jordi, for being with us and for bringing another extremely important perspective, the one of the metropolitan movement, the one of metropolitan governments. Of course, the Area Metropolitana of Barcelona has been a champion worldwide about voluntary locative use and how to build intermunicipal collaboration under the coordination of metropolitan areas. So, Jordi, please, if you would like to share your reflections with us from your experiences perspective. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Martino, and thank you very much, UN Habitat, for giving us the opportunity to participate in these really interesting sessions. I would also like to congratulate all the other speakers for their previous interventions, and I'm sure that the speakers that are going to coming in a while, they're going to be also really inspiring. I'd like to start by saying that our first volunteer metropolitan review was made in the 2025, so it's really recent. And now that we are working on how we can design the next volunteer metropolitan review, we are learning about some things that we may didn't take into consideration on this first edition. But apart from that, I think that's interesting to know what is the metropolitan area of Barcelona, to know our context. We are an institution formed by 36 municipalities, Barcelona and 35 surrounding Barcelona, with more or less the population divided in two halves, one half in Barcelona and the other half in the other 35 municipalities. So our main challenges are related to territorial balance and social also balance. Entering to the volunteer metropolitan review, we have in our volunteer metropolitan review, we have integrated 10 strategic plans that we have designed in the metropolitan area and that we are implementing in the metropolitan area: water, mobility, the urban master plan, the political plan for the political mandate from elections to elections. And all these plans need the agreement of different institutions, of different levels of institutions. For example, when we talk about the urban master plan, we have the approval in the metropolitan institution and we have the competence in the metropolitan institution, but obviously we are formed by the municipalities, so it has to be approved by the municipalities. And also there is a last step when this plan has to be approved by the Catalan government. So we have to integrate all the perspective of all those different levels of institutions if we want to implement, in this case, implement and approve, but on other cases such as water supplying, also to finance all those plans. So integrating these plans in the volunteer metropolitan review is a way to involve all those institutions in the policies applied by our institution. I like to say another thing that it has been said before, that apart from being a really interesting reporting exercise, it has been, I think, a really important way to analyze key challenges, trends, areas of progress, and how our strategic and policy instruments can contribute to address those challenges and advancing the SDGs. And also, it has so integrating all of that, it has become a really strategic tool for evidence-based decision making. So there is the important part of collecting data to integrate all the data we have and all the realities that we have in our institution, but also in our territory, but also to integrate all that on with the strategic plans that I mentioned before, and also integrating all of that in this strategic tool that is the volunteer metropolitan review. And I think that there is another step that it's really important. If there is a last part of our volunteer metropolitan review that it's called obviously next steps, and one of the lines, it says that we need to work with other institutions, and I think that is important to mention what does it require. From our perspective, there are two ingredients that are really essential. First of all, collaboration based on mutual trust. If there is no trust between national, regional, and local governments, we can do anything. So we need to work as a partners, pursuing a common objective and not as separate actors operating in parallel. And also the communication. So we need to have effective multi-level governance. We need to have effective and established regular and fluid channels through with information, priorities, and evidence can be shared. So we don't need to rely on informal channels, but to rely on really established channels to share the information and to work together. And also, if we want the conclusions of our volunteer metropolitan review, if we want to convert them to new policies, I think that is important, the clear political mandate. So we have to if there is not a political push, you can do anything you want, but it won't success. So having well-defined responsibilities and adequate resources is needed, requires of that a clear political mandate that I mentioned just at the moment. And finally, I like to talking about the future of the volunteer local reviews and national and subnational, etc., and metropolitan. We think that it's really important to move on and to integrate them into the new agendas coming after the 2030. We have this milestone of the 2030 agenda with the SDGs, but obviously the life will continue after that point. So we need to take all the information and all the conclusions of these volunteer reviews, and I think that they can become the foundation of a new generation of local and metropolitan accountability frameworks that integrate long-term vision, evidence-based policymaking, and stakeholder engagement. So I think that these processes have contributed to build a culture of measurement, transparency, and collective learning, while strengthening the role of local and regional governments as strategic actors in global governance. I think that this is an important point, because I really believe that these volunteer reviews showed one thing, that the people that has responsibilities in the local or subnational governments, we know it, but it might be not so clear, that you need to take into consideration this local, metropolitan, subnational perspective if you want the policies to success. So finally, I like to finish saying that I think that the challenges that we face beyond 2030, we know climate resilience, social cohesion, housing affordability, technological transformation, democratic governance, will require a new international consensus and the same spirit of collaboration, evidence, and accountability that these volunteer reviews have helped foster. So I like to finish with that conclusion, and thank you for your attention, and I hope that it was an interesting intervention.
It was indeed, Jordi, and thank you very much. And you recall on, I mean, I will of course not try to synthesize what you have mentioned, but I will carry forward with us one important point that you mentioned, and that certainly has emerged in very different sessions, which is the one of political mandate and buy-in. So this is where change can happen. And as you mentioned, how we transform voluntarily metropolitan, local, subnational reviews into policy change, into outcome for the community. The technical and the evidence needs to meet the political, the mandate and the willingness to change things, and really this is where and you mentioned another thing, which is the community that can influence political agendas, both at the local level, both at the national level, as well as globally. So I am pretty sure that with what we are doing right now these days, and even this peer learning culture that you mentioned, will help us in bringing forward and bringing in more mayors, more governors, more presidents, so that the political buy-in and mandate is built on the evidence that you deliver through your local reviews, and then hopefully scaling up at the national level as well to change national policies too. Thank you very much, Jordi, for bringing your experience again. I will then give the floor to our next speaker, engineer Akram Kraisat, a long-term friend of the VLR movement, director of Amman Urban Observatory at Greater Amman Municipality in Jordan. Jordan being already at the second voluntary local review. Akram, you are familiar, more than familiar with the VLR process. Amman Amman has been the champion of VLRs in the region. And now, probably in your reflection, Akram, if you want to share with us, given that you are already at the second VLR, what has changed between the first and the second, and how the voluntary local review process has allowed Amman to advance in your sustainability vision? Please, Akram, the floor is yours.
Hello all, thank you very much. As you know, Amman, first Arab city that have conducted the first VLR, and before 1 week we have launched the second VLR. In our experience in Amman city, the second VLR has moved beyond being a reporting exercise to become like a strategic governance tool. One of its most significant outcomes, and it's some institutional. We go through the institutional our processes of SDG based planning across our departments. I mean municipal departments. And we integrate sustainability indicators into an urban planning services delivery and performance monitoring. The first VLR and the second review places a greater emphasis on the smart city transformation, climate resilience, and digital governance, and evidence-based decision maker. It has strengthened the coordination among the departments internally, I mean in GAM, and national ministries, I mean our stakeholders in Amman city, our partners in academia, and civil society, and international development partners around shared urban sustainability agenda. At the national level, the VLR provide the locally generated evidence that complements Jordan VNR. It demonstrates how national SDG commitments are translated in local action, while also identifying policy gaps that require national support. And the review has also enhanced our city ability to mobilize an international technical assistance and climate finance by presenting a credible framework of sustainable and urban investment. In our experience, and because this is the second VLR, we try to enhance the linkage between the VNR and VLR. An effective linkage between VNR and VLR, we require to just continuous multi-level governance rather than periodic reporting. We believe that our VLR is a process and continual process. Our key success factors for that work include some a very high alignment of national and local SDG indicators, regular data sharing between national statistical institution and municipality, and the planning mechanism linking national development priorities with local investment plans. And we make very good discussions with our partners, our stakeholders, and very high level dialogue among all levels of government. So in our experience of second VLR, we enhance all the process of reviewing the SDG. Our main partner and working on SDGs are Ministry of Planning and also Department of Statistics, some relevant ministries, private sector, also universities and civil society. And I believe that the primary challenges preventing VLRs from becoming a standard component of national SDG governance, the limited institutional mandates for some municipality. Amman is the biggest municipality in Jordan, and we have some small municipalities, and they don't have that much capacities just to work in reviewing the SDGs. Also, some limited long-term financing for SDG monitoring and implementation, and also the capacity gaps in data. When we are working to find some local data at city level, maybe we have faced some challenges just to find, and we use some proxies for that data. The single most important change would be to establish a permanent national framework that formally integrates municipal VLRs into Jordan SDGs governance and system. Such frameworks should be included to standardize the reporting methodologies, also shared indicator system. Even we have a portal for statistical department, but we need to work on sharing the indicator system among all the partners. Also, regular reporting cycles, I think, will help the municipalities and the partners just to go for reviewing or to enhance their reviewing system. In Jordan, we have a good regulations, and we have some policies that we have used, and we worked with full alignment with the national level. And we believe that the coming 5 years, I think VLRs will play an increasingly important role in accelerating SDGs implementation, because cities are where most sustainable challenges and opportunities are concentrated in the cities. For Amman, and from our experience, the second VLR provides a roadmap for accelerating progress through the smart city technologies, also through the digital public services that we are working on, also climate adaptation and resilience, sustainable mobility, green infrastructure, circular economy, also inclusive urban development, citizen partnership. We believe that in Amman, VLR should involve and to be like a permanent urban sustainable monitoring system rather than one-time report. And we believe this document will be like a strategic document and can help us just to improve our work, because we are in this document, in the second VLR, we try to make a good alignment for each SDG between local level and national level. And I think they can serve like a strategic governance tool to support continuous performance improvement, resilience planning, climate action, and evidence-based policymaking. For Amman city, this means using VLR as a living framework that guides future urban development, strengthening the accountability, governance, attracts the sustainable investment, and positions the city as a regional leader in smart, as a pioneer city, and resilient and sustainable urban governance. Thank you very much.
Akram, thanks a lot. Thank you very much to you. And it's beautiful to see the progress of Amman. And I had the pleasure, and I invite you all to have a look at the VNR of Jordan. And the VNR of Jordan is has a substantive component on localization, mentioning, of course, the work of Amman, but also other localities such as Irbid. And I have been a witness of the evolution of the VNR, of the national reporting and planning of Jordan, and that evolution is very much thanks to the bottom-up push that cities and local governments, such as the work of Amman, has brought forward to the national level, and that is now reflected in the national reporting. And thank you, Akram, for also the proposal, the solutions that you are bringing, the need for creating a unified national framework, sharing indicators, sharing data, and having a continuous reporting cycle in a vision, building on the vision that VLRs should be a permanent institutional and strategic document for all the localities in Jordan beyond Amman. A lot to learn. Thanks a lot, Akram, for your intervention. Please, colleagues, I invite you to react in the chat if any of our dear speakers' interventions raise raise your interest, please feel free to bring your reflection in the chat, and so that we can bring it back some questions to the speakers as we go. I move forward with thanking Akram again to Natalia Bello, coordinator of the International Cooperation Office from Salvador, Brazil. Natalia, thank you for being with us from Brazil, and thank you indeed for being connected. So if you could share your experience from the city of Salvador, and if you could share with us how the VLR has helped us maybe doing what I think, even one thing that you would have not done without. So if it has helped you push your policy planning, reporting, action way forward. Natalia, over to you.
Hello, Martino. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Very nice to meet you all. So my name is Natalia. I'm currently the coordinator of the International Cooperation Office of the City Hall of Salvador in Brazil. And I'd like to thank you for the invitation to be here. So for us, our first VLR was developed in 2024. And it was a very new project to discover for everyone within the municipality system, because this was something that we couldn't think that would be possible for a city to do, to gather all the projects that we developed and put them like in boxes, indicating where we are acting, how we are acting, how we are impacting citizens in specific SDGs. So I'd like to just do a big overview of the step-by-step that we did here. So first we had to, of course, make everyone aware of the 2030 agenda and SDGs, because I think many of us live in a reality that this is very common and a very obvious discussion, but when we go outside of that box, we understand that there are many people that work inside municipalities that they just are not aware of the SDGs in the 2030 agenda. So we did like a workshop, a few workshops with directors, coordinators, and secretaries within the municipality to let them know what we are discussing and the importance of discussing it, and what we wanted from it. So this was the first step that we did, and from that we understood that it wouldn't be as easy as we may thought, because it also took some time to convince people to come to the workshops and to understand the importance of it. But thank God we could exceed, and we did it. And then the second step was to, okay, everyone is aware that this is going to be developed and why it is, so we need the data. And this was another challenge that we faced, and I think it's not only here in Salvador, but many cities may face the same challenges as well. That is the data collecting process and the reading of the data, the analysis of the data that we collect. So this was the second one. We asked all the secretariats to send to us the projects they were developing, and then we collected everything and mapped out we tried to identify which SDG was being more impacted from that project, and that's how we structured our VLR. And then this took like 3, 4, 5 months to be complete, and then we went to the launching part, which was very exciting for us. We had some representatives from international partners, and also from the UN Habitat itself. Our representative here in Brazil came to Salvador, and she was with us. And from the launching process, we could understand that our capacity of connecting internationally wise got better. and we could see some great developments from that. We started to get connected with other international partners that we haven't been close yet. And the doors were open because of the VLR that we produced. So this was a very good result that we got from making a VLR. And I'm just going to highlight some developments that we had from it. Here in Salvador, we established in last year, in 2025, our first municipal committee of sustainability and resilience, in which we discuss with every organ institution of the municipality how they are helping the localization and implementation of the SDGs. So we have like the extension of plastic cups and the use of biodegradable ones, solar energy, photovoltaic plates. So if that's not the correct word, but we try to make everyone aware that it is possible to accomplish sustainable development goals and activities. It's not something that it takes a lot of money or a lot of technical capability to do. That's what we try to discuss here. It starts very local, so we can get a global impact, and that's another thing that we try to make it very clear. And for us, something that I would like to point out is that I think the Salvador's VLR created a common language across municipal departments, aligning planning, budgeting, and the monitoring itself around the SDGs. And what I see is that it's strengthening cross-sector collaborations and generated evidence that supported our dialogue with federal government and international partners. And another example that I would like to highlight from this is that last year, the city established a partnership with the federal government that through our National Commission for the SDGs. I know we have Mariana here, who's going to be speaking later. And this was, I think, one of the great outputs that we had because of the VLR that we produced. Now we have like this direct connection with the federal government for us to understand how cities are working towards the implementation of the SDGs, how we can get better at it, because I think the process of making the VLR itself highlights how the city is going and how we can achieve the SDGs and what can we do better. And I think this constantly it's on our radar to talk to the people, to explain that it's not something that it's far from our reality, something that everyone is discussing right now. So I think these reflections along the way helps us a lot as well as to enhance our dialogue with other cities or other countries or other federal institutions. So I think the VLR in Salvador has some great outputs, and we are currently on the process of making another one, maybe for next year, because one thing that I would also like to share, and again, I think this is not just a problem in Salvador, is that one obstacle that we find very hard within the VLR process is the political engagement. I think my colleague from Barcelona said the same thing, is we have to have the mayor, in our case, the mayor and the vice mayor, the people that are on the top aware of the importance of it. And because we deal with public sector, we have many people coming in and coming out in a very fast pace. So this it becomes a challenge for us to engage with the people who are coming and to not let the knowledge go away with who is coming out. But we understand that it's something that we should put more attention to it, and also we are completely open to understand if other cities face the same thing and how they deal with these situations. And yeah, I think that's, I didn't say at what time I started to
Yeah, thank you, Natalia,
speak,
indeed.
but that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Natalia. And just to highlight again, bringing in the political buy-in, the need of having political support to drive forward certain development agendas or priorities emerging from the VLR, extremely important. And probably that's a key issue that we might be focusing as a community on how we can exchange to make sure that this political buy-in is sustainable and that sustainability actually is a long term and doesn't necessarily follow the chopping or short-term or short-term mandates of certain political processes. That's actually very important. The second point, Natalia, is that you have talked a lot about partnerships and how VLR has helped you establishing opening doors at the international level, establishing partnership with your national counterparts. That's really another very important point of the VLR process. So that from the bottom up goes up or horizontally with other partners, other cities or governorates, is that this is indeed a movement, and the movement comes from the doors that it opens and nationally, internationally, and horizontally. Thank you very much, Natalia, for adding to your reflections with sharing your reflections with us today. Of course, as these are the VLR-VSR days, and we are all aware about the key role of associations, of national associations in bringing the key elements forward, we take one step forward. So from local governments, we move to the associations, and then we will ask our national speakers to come last as well. I would like to hear now from Abraham Mubula, Director of Corporate Services from the association, the Local Governments Association of Zambia, bringing forward the experience of Zambia, of the Local Governments Association, and reflecting around the added value of voluntary subnational reviews. So the reviews that subnational associations are bringing forward, and in collecting and sharing that common narrative across territories. Abraham, the floor is yours, please. I am afraid I cannot hear you, Abraham. Your mic is open. It's probably about a mic setting.
Good afternoon. Are you able to get me?
Yes, now I get you. Thank you, Abraham.
Okay, thank you very much, Martino, and also UCOG for this opportunity just to share our experience as the Local Government Association of Zambia. We've been involved in the voluntary national review, the first voluntary national review that was done by Zambia. As an association, we did contribute a chapter of that document, and it was from that involvement that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning requested us to spearhead the aspect of SDG localization in local authorities. And as an association, we then supported Lusaka City Council to do its first voluntary subnational review, and then we were supported by UCLG to do our first voluntary subnational review. And one of the key issues that came out of that particular exercise is that local authorities are actively implementing SDGs at the local level through projects that are being funded through various means of financing. Especially here back home in Zambia, we have what we call a constituency development fund that we saw it increased from 1.6 million in 2021 to 40 million per constituency, which is an increase from 250 million to about 4.9 billion kwacha as an allocation to grassroots funding. And what that has resulted in is the involvement of local authorities in the provision of health facilities, education, water, infrastructure, and also the component of empowerment. And this has brought significant involvement of the community level through what we call the Ward Development Committee. So it's a smallest unit of governance that basically spearheads the aspect of implementation of community projects, which basically speak to the SDGs at the local level. And also in terms of the main driver that we've seen is basically an increase from 2021 of to date of about 13,000 projects that have been implemented at the local level, mainly in the areas of education, improving the quality of education by increasing the number of classroom blocks. We've seen provision of desks in areas where students or pupils were sitting on the floor. We've seen a building of maternity annexes. A good example I'll give is from the voluntary subnational review, which we conducted. A health facility in Mazabuka and Livingston, after the maternity annex was built, they have experienced zero maternal death from the time the infrastructure was completed. And these are real examples of what local financing is able to achieve at the local level. And so what are the key lessons of that we've learned through this process? Number one is that effective SDG localization requires more than just policy framework. It requires a strong institutional capacity and coordination at the local level. The capacities of local authorities have to be enhanced for them to be able to spearhead the aspect of localization. Number two is a decentralized funding mechanism, such as the Constituency Development Fund that we have here, are essential, but must be supported by strong accountability and financial management system. Because once you enhance financing to local authorities have the means to be able to implement SDG projects, and then the communities are able to relate directly to what SDGs are. Rather than viewing them from the global perspective of the national perspective, they're able to now relate to projects and be able to see that, okay, the issue of quality education, quality health, they're able to relate because of the projects that they're able to apply for. We're also seeing that the need for community awareness and engagement, that they are crucial for communities to be involved in the awareness process, so that they're able to own the development process, they're able to own the aspect of SDG, which will improve also the aspect of reporting. Then integrated and multi-sectoral approach. One of the key issues that we've seen the government do is establishment of a steering committee at national level, where the different permanent secretaries from the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Finance are able to sit together with the cooperating partners, UN agencies, and we're able to provide reports on the progress that we are making as a civil society organization, the ministry itself, and other partners in terms of the SDG localization and implementation. Also, we've noticed that there's need for reliable data. Investing in strong monitoring and evaluation system are very key to be able to track the contribution of local authorities in terms of its contribution to localization. So then there's these stakeholder or multi-level engagements where we have the communities being involved through the ward development committees. We have the districts that are able to get reports directly from the ward development committees, and then the district is able to report at the district development coordinating committee, which then feeds into the national development coordinating committee, provides that authenticity of why the local authorities need to be involved. And we are hoping, as a country, we have been supported by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa with support from the Italian government. We'll be supporting 13 local authorities in the process of preparing their first voluntary local review. And we hope that that process will be able to feed into our voluntary national review, which we are reporting next year, to be able to showcase the role of local government and why we need to be able to now focus our attention to local government to spearhead the aspect of SDG localization. So these are some of the issues that we've been able to implement, and we've noticed that there is need for performance-based planning and funding that can help reduce the disparities and improve efficiency in terms of SDG localization. So these are some of the works that we are doing, working together with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and the Ministry of Finance, and also the Zambia Statistical Agents to be able to improve and build the capacities of local authorities in terms of SDG localization. And with the local financing that the government has provided, and it is envisioned that this year to be increased to 60 million per constituency. We're hoping that it will be able to accelerate the aspect of SDG localization at the local level. So these are some of the achievements and some of the ways that Zambia is trying to catch up on some of the goals that we are lacking behind, but also ensure that the different levels of government are able to coordinate and work together in terms of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you, Martina.
No, thanks to you, Abraham, for the excellent overview, comprehensive, to the point, and results-oriented. Congratulations to the associations for the work of intermediary in connecting the local governments and the national governments and in identifying the challenges that are common across territories so that they can be addressed systematically and consciously at policy level, at resource level, and in terms of implementation. One issue that you have highlighted that has not emerged probably in previous interventions, but that is key, which is the one of capacities. It's capacities, capacitation, and finance needs to follow mandate. So the fact of building the capacities of local and regional governments in order to deliver on their mandate, accompanied by predictable sources of funding, is key to enhance the impact and the long-term territorial transformation that we are seeking to deliver collectively through VNRs, VLRs, and VSRs. Thank you, Abraham, for your intervention. And I would like to go back to Latin America and ask a colleague from the United Nations to bring again her perspective from the region, but also from the UN itself around the work in Latin America and beyond in connecting VNR, VSRs, VLRs. Marijke Eberts, Economic Affairs Officer from UNECLAC, please, from a regional perspective, how this connection is shaping and what you have seen over the past years and months of development in terms of shaping sustainable development policy and what could be the way forward for these reporting instruments. Marijke, over to you.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it was really interesting to listen to all the speakers, especially because we work at the regional level in Latin America and the Caribbean. So it was very exciting for me as well to hear experiences from countries from other regions of the world. Just before I start, I would just to present you very quickly the new figures of SDG achievement from our region, because I think they highlight very much that localization is key to accelerate the speed. And that's obviously one of the lessons learned we have been observing over the last years in our region. So the results we presented at our last meeting of the Forum of the Countries on Sustainable Development, which is one of those 5 regional forums that also feed into the HLPF. Our diagnostics were that only 19% of the SDG targets will be achieved by 2030, 42% are moving in the right direction, but at an insufficient pace, and 39% are stagnant or in decline compared to 2015. So that was actually reverse as well from the previous year. Why am I saying that? We all know that we are behind, but I think it also stresses once more that the effective implementation of the SDGs depends at the local level, from the local level. And we've heard that from previous speakers that cities face many challenges of our time. We see that in Latin America, where more than 80% of the population lives in cities. So they are in charge of dealing with climate resilience, with social inequality, from the impacts of international trade to the integration of migrants, just to name a few. So therefore, ECLAC has developed several tools and methodologies to support not only our national governments of our 33 member states, but also local and subnational governments in their efforts to deliver on the 2030 agenda, and especially as well how to create synergies between both processes, especially between the vertical integration of the different levels, and also synergies between the voluntary national review and the voluntary local reviews. I know the time is short, but maybe I can highlight some of the tools we have, and I'm happy to share some of the links in the chat as well for more information if you're interested. We have several publications that deal with the localization of the SDGs that we also did in collaboration with local authorities from the region. And recently we published a guide on the elaboration of voluntary local reviews that many local authorities have already used within the region. And last year we published, we launched a training course, which is free of charge, which is virtual, which is self-paced, and it's available already in English and Spanish. And we're working currently on a translation as well in Portuguese to reach most of the countries from our region. We also developed a methodology to measure the SDGs at the local level, which has already been implemented in territories in Argentina, just to complement as well national data with local data. And we organize events and workshops, including together with DESA in the framework of the regional forum, to vertically integrate the different levels, the local, national, regional, and global dimensions. And maybe as a result as well, several countries in our region have conducted voluntary local reviews to feed into the VNR process, such as Brazil, such as Honduras, and very happy as well, one Caribbean country has conducted its first voluntary local review, and that has really fed into the voluntary national review. And I think that's like one of the key takeaways that I would like to give, like to create more synergies. And how can we achieve this? I think, first of all, we need to create spaces for enhanced multi-sector, multi-actor partnerships and collaborations, for instance, as in the regional forum. We also have a community of practice in place that supports especially national governments. But over the past years, we have opened up that space where we have monthly discussions and share best practices and lessons learned around the implementation of the 2030 agenda, especially the voluntary national review process. But on at least 5 occasions, we opened up the space to invite local and subnational authorities and create synergies between the VNRs and the VLRs, and to really also discuss the topic of localization, which we've seen as a really important trend in our region and around the world, of course. In our SDG Gateway, which is the one-stop shop, so to say, for all information on events and publications and so forth on the SDGs in our region. We've recently as well created a dedicated website to the voluntary local reviews, not just the voluntary national reviews. So we have already more than 100 VLRs from the region. There are many more, so it's still a task to compile them. It's not as straightforward, of course, as with the VNRs that have official deadlines, obviously that are not as flexible as with the VLRs. So that's still a work in progress. And maybe as the last thing, we have a multi-stakeholder mapping platform. I'm happy to share all those links where we look not just at the national level, but also at territorial level in all 33 member states, also according to SDG and also according to actor, and really also with the idea to bring interested stakeholders together to create lasting partnerships regarding this. Last but not least, I think, and we heard this from previous speakers, the role of local and regional government association and networks is also crucial, as they really represent a strong voice for coordinated action. Our region, for instance, as well has the Mercosudades, the Latin American Federation of Cities, Municipalities and Local Government Association, FLAGMA, or the Local Governments of Sustainability or C4Cities network, just to name a few. So I think it's really important as well to use those networks to work together. And we try to invite, for instance, those networks as well to our sessions at the regional forum, where we try to have a multi-stakeholder approach with a national government representative, a local authority. And I think the first key really to create partnerships and to work together is create those spaces as well where they can actually interact, because sometimes they work on very different levels. And that's what we try to do with those different tools I mentioned. I think maybe I might be reaching my time, but thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm happy to share some of the links in the chat. Thanks a lot.
Mareike, please. Yes, indeed. Thanks. Please share those links, which are always very important. This movement is built on willingness, but it's built also on technical work. So any additional resource is always welcome. And just to highlight the importance of the spaces, as you mentioned, the spaces such as the one, of course, provided by the Regional Commission, ECLAC, by the regional commissions in general. The regional dimension of this discussion is key, is essential. because of the common challenges that emerge at the regional level. And this need for spaces is also reflected in the nature itself of voluntary national, local, and subnational reviews as convening moments for national and local stakeholders to discuss about shared priorities and how we move forward. So having additional convening moments at the regional level through the UN becomes absolutely essential. And this is some of the spirit that we bring into these VLR-VSR days. Hopefully, and with our collective willingness, we will be able to institutionalize these spaces, not only the space itself, but the multi-stakeholder and multi-level nature of it, with local and regional governments formally recognized within these mechanisms, both at the national as well as the regional and international level. Thank you, Marek. Thank you for your intervention. And I would like to share the floor right now with Juan Carlos Amaya, Municipal Development Manager from the Association of Municipalities from Honduras. From the perspective of the association, dear Juan Carlos, what does it take to ensure that the municipal experiences, data, and priorities are systematically reflected into SDG reporting, and how this SDG reporting can influence planning and action? And from an association perspective, of course, you have this role of bringing all municipalities together, of filtering and supporting dialogue with the national level. So this multi-level governance effort is at the center of your work. Juan Carlos, the floor is yours.
Muy buenos días, saludos desde Honduras. Un gusto estar con ustedes. La Asociación de Municipios de Honduras aglutina a 298 gobiernos municipales y cumplimos un rol fundamental en asesorar, asistir, capacitar y también desarrollar herramientas de gestión para apoyar a los municipios en el cumplimiento de sus competencias. Eso nos ha llevado entonces a valorar positivamente toda la metodología y los procesos para la elaboración de los informes voluntarios. Podríamos decir, bueno, en Honduras los municipios funcionan a partir de un plan de desarrollo municipal que contempla 14 ejes, y dentro de estos 14 ejes de desarrollo los municipios impulsan sus acciones para fortalecer la educación, la salud, el agua, la vivienda, la seguridad alimentaria, el ordenamiento territorial, pero también los grupos vulnerables. En el marco del desarrollo de los informes voluntarios hemos encontrado elementos muy positivos y claves de cara al fortalecimiento de la planeación y la presupuestación, sobre todo cuando hablamos de eficacia y eficiencia de la inversión. Creo que los informes voluntarios son herramientas claves para acotar elementos que permitan también mejores focalizaciones, priorizaciones, pero también eficientar los recursos y también generar alertas de elementos que no estamos atendiendo y que son prioridad o deben ser prioridad, pero también la transversalización de enfoques en torno a la gestión municipal. Entonces, tenemos un cúmulo de experiencias y buenas prácticas a partir del ejercicio por los gobiernos locales en Honduras. Es nuestro segundo ejercicio. Nosotros también como asociación cumplimos un rol fundamental en desarrollar estos ejercicios pilotos que luego también se buscan replicar en el resto de los territorios del país. Podríamos decir entonces que más allá de un ejercicio de rendición de cuentas, también representan la oportunidad para fortalecer esta planeación, mejorar la coordinación interinstitucional y promover la participación de los gobiernos locales, pero también la sociedad civil, la academia, el sector privado y la cooperación internacional. Estos informes también en Honduras han permitido evaluar periódicamente el avance del país hacia el cumplimiento de los ODS, y desde lo local también, diría yo, hemos estado invisibilizados en todo este espectro del cumplimiento de las metas de los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, y los VLR han demostrado que los municipios son o constituyen de los principales inversores en los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, y que no lo hemos estado viendo así, y probablemente también eso ha implicado desaprovechar toda esta plataforma local de cara al cumplimiento. Lo otro es que han permitido identificar estas brechas territoriales y poblacionales para orientar las políticas públicas y cómo estas deberían de ser más inclusivas. Eso es un elemento también que nos ha contribuido mucho el ejercicio. También han sido un detonante en el tema de la transparencia y la rendición de cuenta a partir de los hallazgos encontrados en los informes voluntarios. Y han también hecho algo que me parece muy positivo y es la movilización de recursos en torno a estos. Podríamos decir que hay acciones aprendidas. Podemos decir que la implementación requiere un fuerte liderazgo institucional y coordinación interinstitucional también, que los municipios desempeñan un papel fundamental, ya que gran parte de las metas de los ODS se materializan en el territorio y eso es clave también entenderlo. Lo otro es la disponibilidad y la calidad de los datos, que sigue siendo uno de los principales desafíos para medir el avance. Y ahí sobre eso hay un rol importante como asociación sobre el cual tenemos que puntualizar acciones muy específicas. Y otra lección aprendida importante es el tema de la conexión entre los planes nacionales, los sectoriales y los municipales, cómo construir estos mecanismos de bajada que también conecten lo nacional, lo regional y lo local para confluir o tener esa concreción en la planeación y la presupuestación. Y también dentro del ejercicio también encontramos buenas prácticas y ahí podemos también rescatar algunos temas como la incorporación de los ODS en la planeación municipal, que yo diría, después de ver toda esta agenda mundial, ha sido un reto también acotarla para aplicarla en lo local, pero los VLR nos han permitido también hacer ejercicios interesantes que hoy nos han dado elementos claves para ver cómo vamos a hacerlo ahora ya en una masa mayor de municipios. La promoción de los espacios de diálogo y participación multisectorial también es una buena práctica que nos la llevamos y las experiencias locales exitosas en los temas de educación, salud, agua, saneamiento, desarrollo económico local, gestión ambiental y gobernanza, que obviamente nos ha enseñado mucho. Y obviamente también quedan próximos pasos que vamos a también a estar incorporando en nuestros futuros procesos, como también podría ser consolidar un sistema nacional de seguimiento. La aspiración es que en algún momento todos los municipios en Honduras hagan sus informes voluntarios y también de cara a replantearnos cómo esto se convierte en un mecanismo también acelerador para los 4 años que quedan de vigencia ya de los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, incrementar la inversión pública bajo un alineamiento más puntual con los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, también territorializar todas estas acciones, impulsar mecanismos permanentes de monitoreo, fortalecer las alianzas y también generar bases de datos locales para la toma de decisión, pero también para la reportería. Muchas gracias, estimados. Saludos. Ha sido un placer.
Mil gracias, Juan Carlos, for the intervention. The experience of Honduras, and thank you for sharing again the solution or the proposed way forward, recalling some of the elements that que hemos escuchado, that we heard from the colleagues from Amman, the willingness to create a national system for reporting, hopefully translating into mechanisms and platform for accelerating delivery from now until 2030 as multi-level and multi-stakeholder systems where voluntary local and voluntary subnational reviews are at the center. You have mentioned the issue of dialogue, you have mentioned the issue of data, but also you have mentioned the fact that the voluntary subnational reviews are instruments of efficiency, and this is a word that you have used at the very beginning, eficiencia, and I really want to highlight and underline this element that voluntary local reviews helps us in creating coherence across policies and identifying those investment pathways where public and private investments can support the transformation of our territories. So efficiency at the core of the delivery and the nature nature of VLR-VSRs. And with these words, I would like to go to the national level. We have heard before from the city of Salvador, from Brazil, and we have now two national hosts, again, one from Brazil and one from Serbia. I will kindly now invite Marina Cavalcanti. I can hear some Italian influence in your name as well, Marina, a coordinator from my municipality for the SDGs program, from the National Commission for the SDGs from Brazil. We have heard before from a city, from a local governments. Marina, you might want to share your perspective in this multi-level coordination of how Brazil is addressing the delivery of the SDGs. Over to you.
Yes, I have some Italian here. Thank you, Martino, and for your kind introduction. And I would like also to acknowledge Ms. Natalia from the city of Salvador for sharing with us a valuable local perspective on Brazil's efforts to implement the Sustainable Development Goals in our territory. Within the Brazilian National Commission for the Sustainable Development Goals, known in Brazil as SENODS, I serve as coordinator of my municipality for the Sustainable Development Goals. That is an initiative for the localization process in Brazil. As you might know, Brazil offers a particularly relevant context for this discussion. We are a country of continental dimensions with more than 5,570 municipalities, each with distinct realities and development challenges. And in this context, connecting global goals, national priorities, and local realities is both a challenge and a necessity. Our journey toward strengthening the connection between national and local review process began with the nationalization of the SDGs targets, and we recognized that implementing the 2030 agenda across a country as diverse as Brazil required adapting the global targets to our national context while preserving their alignment with the global framework. And this process helped create a bridge between the global agenda and public policies in Brazil and laid the foundation for the next step, the localization of the SDGs across our territories. From this experience, we learned that effective implementation depends on strong partnerships and meaningful engagement from local government. This led SENODS and its partners to create in February last year this initiative, My Municipality for the SDGs. And the initiative was conceived as a multi-level governance mechanism. Rather than simply inviting municipalities to commit to the agenda, we thought that offer practical support through technical assistance, capacity building opportunities, methodologies, tools, and peer learning networks. And today we count with 662 municipalities that have voluntarily joined the initiative and receive access free of charge to a whole package of support with our partners. While we still have a long way to go in a country with more than 5,000 municipalities, this level of engagement suggests that local governments are interested in practical mechanisms that can help advance SDG localization. Municipalities joining the initiative commit to integrating the SDGs into local planning process, and strengthening governance mechanisms, monitoring indicators, promoting social participation, and advancing transparency and accountability. As the initiative evolved, an opportunity emerged to support the preparation of the VLRs for the first 50 municipalities that joined the initiative. So with Caixa and Instituto das Cidades Sustentáveis, Programa Cidades Sustentáveis, this experience provided valuable insights into both the opportunities and the challenges municipalities face when engaging in local monitoring and reporting processes related to the SDGs. And one lesson emerging from this experience is the voluntary local reviews that can serve purposes that go beyond reporting. When linked to planning, monitoring, and policy implementation processes, they can help strengthen local governance and support evidence-based decision-making. Building on these initial experiences, the Commission is now exploring, together with our partners, ways to support municipalities in preparing their own VLRs. Among the possibilities under discussion is the development of a Brazilian reference framework based on official data sources and a common methodological approach that can be adapted to different local realities. Through these ongoing discussions, we hope to strengthen and progressively consolidate the connection between national and local review processes. We want local evidence, local priorities, and local experiences to contribute more systematically to monitoring and review efforts at the national level. At the same time, we are investing in training municipal technical teams because we believe that sustainable localization depends on strengthening institutional capacities and ensuring that knowledge remains within the territories. This work is directly connected to our VNR that will be presented next week on the HLPF. And as I go to the end of my talk here, I see that our experience in Brazil continues to be a learning process. What it has reinforced for us is the importance of partnerships, dialogue, and cooperation across different levels of government. And only by working together that we can advance in the implementation of the 2030 agenda and ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you very much, Martino.
Thanks a lot. Obrigado, Marina, for your intervention. And it's very beautiful to see the continuous of the connection between what Natalia shared before and what you are sharing here with us, and the convergence of the vision, the convergence of the objective, and the convergence of the aim to strengthen national and local priorities as well as collective delivery. Congratulations to my municipality for the SDG program. It's quite an impressive and huge program, and you mentioned 5,000 municipalities, and I mean, good luck to reach to all of them. But I'm sure that step by step, this was launched just a little bit of time ago, and you have reached to voluntarily more than 600. So the results are impressive, which testifies the willingness, I believe, of localities and local governments to be part of national decision making, national reporting, and to be equipped with the capacities to deliver on shared priorities. So thanks a lot, Marina, for your intervention. And Brazil has been really also a champion hosting VNR exchanges and many other things. So there is a lot to share and a lot to learn and a lot to talk about the experience of Brazil. We will for sure see each other next week at HLPF. Thanks a lot, Marina, and thank you for your intervention. And we conclude today's session, bringing the attention to Eastern Europe, to Europe again, plan, and with Tanya Obradovic, a key partner and a champion in the region for voluntary local reviews, voluntary national reviews. Serbia is part, as Brazil it is, for example, of the partnership platform on localizing the SDGs. She has been leading the VLR of the city of Niš, and now she's the head of planning inspection at the Ministry of Construction, Transport and Infrastructure in Serbia. Tanya, you have been working at all levels, and you have been the one driving SDG planning and reporting in Serbia, inspiring many municipalities and cross-departmental collaboration. Would you tell us a bit more about the experience in Serbia, and what do you hope for the future of this multi-level connection between VLRs, VNRs, and voluntary subnational reviews? Over to you. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Martino, and thank you all, because I enjoy in listening previous speakers. From my perspective, the greatest value of voluntary local reviews is not the report itself. The real value is the transformation process that happens when a territory begins to understand itself as a system. When we prepared the first voluntary local review for the city of Niš, we experienced that the process created something that would not have happened otherwise. It's brought together different actors, local government, academia, civil society, and international partners around a shared understanding of sustainable development. It creates a common language and help local evidence become part of wider discussion on SDG implementation. But through this experience, we also learn that localization is entering a new phase. The main challenge is not longer only measuring progress. The challenge is understanding and managing complexity. The territories are not collection of separate sectors. Energy influences food system, for example. Water influences health and ecosystem. Housing influences social inclusion. Mobility influences accessibility and economic opportunities. Every intervention creates effects across multiple interconnected systems. This requires a shift from a sector-based approach toward a systems-based approach. Territory should be understood as a living system where special environment, social, economic, institutional, and technological dimensions continuously interact. This means that sustainable development requires more than monitoring indicators. It requires territorial intelligence, the capacity to understand a relationship, identify interdependencies, engage different actors, test solutions, learn from results, and feedback, and adapt policies over time. This perspective also changes how we understand the relationships between VLRs and VSRs. In Serbia, we have only a national and local level. We have a VNR, and we have one VLR for city of Niš. A territory does not exist in separate scales. The same territory simultaneously belongs to different level of governance and different spatial realities. For example, a neighborhood is a part of a city. A city is a part of a region is a part of a national system, and all of them are connected with the global sustainability challenges. When we understand territory as a system, VLR and VNR and VSR and VNR are not separate reporting instruments. They are different perspectives on the same living system. The local level provides knowledge about everyday realities, community needs, and innovation. The regional level reveals wider territorial dynamics and interdependencies. The national level, for example, creates policy framework, regulation, and mechanism that enable transformation. Therefore, the key challenge is not simply linked a report, but creating continuously feedback loops between different scales of knowledge and decision making. Local communities generate evidence and innovation. Cities and regions translate this knowledge into integrated strategies. And national governments create enabling frameworks. International organizations, for example, support learning, exchange, and replication. However, one of the main challenges remains that VLR and VSR are still often dependent on a political commitment, individual champions, or externally supported project. They are not yet fully part of permanent mechanism of territorial learning and governance. The change we need is not only another reporting requirement, we need institutional capacities for continuously learning, stronger territorial data system, cooperation between levels of government, university, communities, and international partners, and approach that allow policies to adapt as our territories evolve. Looking beyond 2030, I believe VLR and VSR can play an even greater role. They should evolve from periodic reporting exercise into a permanent territorial intelligence system, platform that help territories observe, change, understand complexity, adapt policies, and co-create a resilient future. The SDG have provided us with a shared vision. The next challenge is developing the capacity to navigate it, that complexity, and transform that vision into action. And ultimately, of the end, sustainability development is not achieved only by producing better reports. It is achieved by creating territories that are capable of learning, adapting, and continuously transforming themselves. And at the end, of course, in countries without a formal, for example, regional administrative level, such as Serbia, there is still a need to understand territorial systems, administrative boundaries. VSR could become an opportunity to test how, for example, functional territories based on shared challenges, resources, and connection can contribute to SDG localization even without a regional government structure. Thank you very much.
Tanya, I could not imagine better words and better, I would say, reflections to close this second session of the VLR-VSR days. You have probably identified one of the key cores of this whole discussion, which is system thinking. That there is no national, there is no subnational, there is local, there is a unique system. When we talk about national, local, and subnational, we are just talking about functions. We are all part of a same network. We are all part of a same country. We are all part of a same world, and we need to work as one, as a system. So, and I believe that your reflections and the need of seeing policy making as and delivery as interconnected. This brings me back to some of probably the issues that I invite you to join at the High Level Political Forum with Local 2030 Working Group 1 publishing its policy guideline on localizing the 6 transitions, on advancing localization through the 6 transitions, really looking at the interaction in between all of the transitions, energy, education, education, security, climate, economy, and how interventions at all levels advance progress in all of these dimensions. So, Tanya, thank you very much for your reflections. We bring your reflections together with us. We bring your vision on making VLR, VSRs, and VLRs interconnected as country and local intelligence for planning, delivery, and initiatives. Dear colleagues, I would like not only to just thank the speakers that have been with us and the organizing partners, but to specifically thank the partners that have been connected and that have been staying throughout these fantastic sessions together with us, listening to what we have to say, reflecting together with us, interacting in the chat, and bringing experiences from throughout the globe. Again, this system that is interconnected, all of us working and driving forward with the same spirit and with the same goal. And with this, I will kindly close the first day of the voluntary local and voluntary subnational reviews. Today is the second day. It's a tradition. It's a multiple days effort, and